got more if you want.
All right. Good evening. Welcome to the August 16th, 2023 Planning Board public hearing. This hearing will now come to order. Public hearing to review the application of Hisong Ready Mix Aggregates. This is a public proceeding, and unless the board specifically goes into executive session, you have the right to hear everything that is being said and to look at all exhibits that are offered. Please notify the board chair if you have any difficulty seeing or hearing the presentation. This hearing is being recorded and televised on YouTube. All persons will be asked to first state their name and address or affiliation. All questions or comments will be directed to and through the board chair. It is required that you sign in on the sign-in sheet to document your attendance at this hearing. If you haven't already done so, please do so. And thank you in advance for your cooperation.
Mr. Chair, could we do a roll call, please?
Sure.
Just to make sure. I know we got a quorum, but
Kelly Demers, 10 Partridge Way.
Don Hernan, 33 Murphy's Way.
Joe Wagner, 26 Day Road.
Cecile Dupuy, 53 Chapel Shores Road.
Kevin Bayer, 64 Buckingham Pond Road.
William Single, 8 Single Lane.
All right, the representatives from Hisong Aggregates, Ready Mix Aggregates, please make your presentation.
Yes, my name is Steve Patch. I'm with Chandler Brook Consultants out of North Yarmouth, Maine, and I'm representing Hisong Aggregates. I guess we've had the presentation, prepared the site review application a few weeks back, gone through that, and we had a site walk. I think everybody saw what they needed to see there. So we basically are trying to expand the existing quarry by approximately 8 acres, keeping everything else the way it's been since, I guess, I think 2005. The original permit application was submitted for a 26-acre quarry to the DEP. That was expanded, I believe, in 2015 by about 7 acres, which went through the planning board here as well. And now we're just at the point of it getting close enough to trying to get this expansion, basically permitted for future work. Yeah, that's about it. It's I can answer any questions anybody may have, but that's our presentation.
Any questions from the public with respect to this project? Any questions from the board?
Yeah, just a question. What is this how many acres are you gonna have open when this is finished? So how many acres will this allow to be open?
So the reclamation and in your zoning ordinance, when it's all said and done, the quarry itself, the high wall, if you would, are pretty much straight down. They bench them in for MSHAR and safety reasons, and the application to the DEP allows you to reclaim a quarry by making it into a pond, and it needs to have an undulated bottom surface. It needs to have at least one area of that pond at a 4-to-1 slope, so that if somebody did fall in, they could get out. Other portions of the quarry that aren't the rock face will be reclaimed with a topsoil seed and mix. The DEP requires a 90% catch of either grass vegetation or some kind of plantings, trees or things like that. So that will be ultimately what happens. There's a area where the processing is done now that is not part of the quarry, although that can become more of the quarry. But I think what you'll end up seeing at the end of the day is something around the size of a 26-acre pond, and the rest of it will be reclaimed with seed and mulch or vegetation.
So how much is open right now?
Right now, I think
Roughly.
the way the planning board looks at it, the last permit it allowed 15 acres to be operated as a quarry. I believe it's right around 11 or 10 right now. It may have gone a little bit more than that as the quarry. The other parts of the site are for late, the stockpile areas, and of course an associated use that was permitted is the cement. I'm getting that right? It's concrete, concrete plant. There's a difference. So, yes. So right now, you're probably what you see for a quarry is between 10 and 12 or 15 acres.
And you're permitted right now for 15
Through the town of,
approved so far.
yeah,
And you're going to go to how much?
we're going to add another 8 to that.
So we,
Approximately, because I believe the other 8 acres will pretty much be a all quarry.
and when do you have to start reclaiming?
Because so much of it will be reclaimed as a pond, and so much of it is just sheer wall. The DEP requires an escrow to be held for anything over 10 acres, and they assign a certain value for reclamation. I believe it's I want to say it's $4,000 or $5,000 an acre. So the reclamation has kind of gone on as they've developed the quarry in areas where they disturb. They have to take off the topsoil or the overburden to get down to the rock to try to blast. And some of those areas have been kind of reshaped and reclaimed. But for the most part, the quarry is also permitted to be an externally draining quarry. So in the springtime, they basically pump the water out of the quarry to the point where they can get in there and work and do what they need to do with the crushing and have, getting the rock out. So it's really not going to be until the end of the life of the quarry that operation will stop and the water will start to naturally come back up and the pond will develop itself. So it's a little bit ongoing, but for the most part, it's what you saw out there last. You're always going to have that floor relatively dry.
I don't know. Hasn't been much reclaimed so far, has there?
I think you're confusing a quarry with gravel pit.
Okay.
Gravel pits, because of the nature of the gravel pit, you excavate a certain number of
Right.
acres at a time.
Yeah,
It's typically 5 acres at a time.
Okay.
Quarry, you can't reclaim it because it's just a
There's
big
nothing
rock
there.
face. Reclamation is really just allowing it to naturally fill with water at the end.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually. I think I
So
am. I got those two.
reclamation happens at the end.
Okay.
That's just how it works. And again, like Steve said, there isn't a whole lot to reclaim, just some areas around the.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. So, okay. Yeah, good. Thanks for clearing that up. Appreciate it.
Now, I'm not asking for a date, but when would you project the quarry to be played out and the reclamation begins?
Those, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Chris Pizy is on readiness. We would estimate this is probably another dozen years at least of stone.
Okay.
for us.
Thank you.
It's kind of, those questions are asked a lot, and it's really kind of the economy drives a lot of it, and so it's, as long as people are building and things are going pretty smooth, that's probably a good number.
Any further questions from the board? Good.
Oh, I'm good.
Any further questions from the audience? Sir, just identify yourself, please.
Yeah, I'm Nick Armentrout, live 73 Drive Lane. I don't know, it might be 3 miles as the crow flies. When you guys pump to go back in and resume your activities, where do you pump the water to?
There's a stormwater detention pond that's been sized, and it's really controlled by the pump, how long you run the pump. But it goes into the detention pond, and that has its own infiltration outlet that is underground, basically. And then that just kind of infiltrates into the ground and drains away.
If you see the existing quarry here, this is the pond, it's an engineered.
So we pump it up into this forebay, if you would. It drains into here, it's held, and then eventually
infiltrates up in this direction and goes down into the left.
And where's Campbell Road on that area?
Over here. And,
Does that help?
Yeah, it's too bad that wasn't posted on the town site, that map. It had been indicated that it would be, and I looked for it today, it's not on the town site.
And my apologies.
I have some other comments, and I don't know if this is the time to make those comments.
Mr.
So I've lived at our location for, 25 years. I used to ride horses up the top of that ridge there where the pit is now. And, I think, Chris, maybe you and I spoke this spring. Something changed out there this summer. I have a farm, so I'm up pretty early, about 5:30 in the morning. It's not uncommon for them to be running at 5:30 in the morning. Yeah. And so I made a call, and I believe, Chris, you might have called me back and you said, well, that might not be us. That could be Du Bois. That could be our neighbors. I said, that's fair enough, but there are plenty of days when there's, rock crushing going on, and you can hear it, 5:30 in the morning. And if it was you, Chris, or somebody else, everybody was perfectly polite, perfectly nice, and frankly responsive to my call. And I said, my objective is not to try to shut anybody down. I'm not trying to put up a big stink, but we all have to live out here. 5:30 in the morning is too early. I've got tractors. I could be working out this time of year at 5:30 in the morning in the field. I don't. I wait till 7:30 in the morning. And what I was told, perhaps by Chris or somebody else, is, well, we've had somebody in there doing contract crushing this year. We faced the same, labor challenges as any other business. So we've had a crew in there come in and run it, and they run it intensively for a period of time, and then they pull out. We've contracted those services. I said, well, that's fine, I understand. It's a tough time to hire labor, but, if we all have to live out here, that's not being very responsible or neighborly, running at 5:30 in the morning. Again, could be Du Bois. What I'm not doing is going down in my truck and taking pictures at 5:30 in the morning. I got stuff to do at 5:30 in the morning. But I'm hearing the noise. And I can tell you it wasn't there when I moved out there in 1998. And so it's a change. I don't know what the town requires for warnings and blastings, because I'm not a butter to that property. But I live close enough that when there are loud explosions, it shakes my house. So, again, I'm not trying to shut anything down, but if you look at the mission of this board, and you look at all of us who have to live in this multi-use area out there, we all have to get along. And there has to be some accountability. Do I like the executive helicopters that now fly over my house that weren't there when I moved out in 1998 from the Sanford Airport? No, plenty of stuff changes, but we have to get along. Not only trying to call audience on, but that's what this hearing is. I think, do I want to be somebody who tries to drive a noise ordinance? I don't, but ordinances exist to try to demand that people do the right thing, the responsible thing, when that's not happening naturally. For whatever reason, this year, you guys aren't as good as a neighbor this year. You're just not. And I would extend that to the activity across the street from you as well, to your neighbors there. There's a lot of commercial activity up that Kennebunk Road now that wasn't there before. It just wasn't, and it's noise, and it's a lot of noise at strange hours of the day and night. And I would like to see there be, for the next projected 12 years, some accountability to the rest of us who live, in some cases, run businesses in the neighborhood. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Archer. Mr. Pizza? Easy.
And you did call me that day, and I addressed it that day, and I haven't heard anyone else. I'm not aware of any other complaints or phone calls. We actually haven't crushed any stone for, like I said, like I explained, we hired a contract crusher who came in and crushed for 3 weeks, and they'll be coming back next month again for probably about the same period of time to crush for us again. So and my employees don't even start work until 6:30 in the morning. So I mean, I can provide time cards and other things to document that. So I'm not sure, there may be trucks, there may be some truck noise, because the trucks are the trucks from the ready mix plant may be starting and going, but I don't believe it's crushing activity that early in the morning. But I'm more than happy if you do hear something, please let me know, or I'm happy if you want to come by and I can show you the operation and what's going on there and try to address any. But there's some pretty clear directions that we have in our approval for you when we can operate. 5:30 is too early, and I talked to the contractors to stop. So I'm surprised you're continuing to hear noise that early in the morning. They haven't even been in there since maybe June.
Well, they will be coming back.
They will be coming back.
Could
in
you,
September, and I'll
remind them?
again. But again, I think I've always tried to be very responsive to anybody that's where I've got any sort of feedback from, particularly the neighbors on the road. That's who I hear from the most. Usually something about a truck or something. We'll always address that.
I was just going to comment that I think you're starting to do the right thing by calling
Sure.
the owner of the gravel pit. But I would suggest that you might want to document your comments in writing to the code enforcement officer. Because, I mean, because when the permit was issued, and same thing should be in effect for Du Bois, I would think, there should be hours of operation in there. And if they're not following that, then, I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't call them and say, hey, this is making noise, but I'm saying you ought to send a written note to the code enforcement officer who would hopefully look into it and see if that was the case or see if there's any other complaints, et cetera, because the planning board goes through the procedures. We agree on the notice of decision, blah, 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 has conditions in it. And then it goes out. We have no enforcement power on anything, probably fortunately. But I'm saying after it's approved, and if the applicant is not meeting the conditions of approval, then it should go to the code enforcement officer to look at the records and talk to the people. And I'm not trying to give her work. She's got more than enough work to do. And that's really she's got too much to do now, but that's the mechanism for providing a comment.
That would be very helpful. That's pretty much exactly what I'm looking for. If
Yeah.
there are established hours of operation that were approved as part of by this board.
Yeah, and I don't
by
know.
the town,
You know what
that's
they are.
exactly what I'd be looking for.
Yeah.
I have a copy of that.
Actually, I got their ordinance right here, but
I was gonna say, I believe
that's
the
right,
last
it's in the
time it
ordinance.
came to us a few years ago, there were hours of operation established, and I do believe it was 7 to 5, and with the possibility of extending during the summer hours later, but not earlier.
if I may, the ordinance reads, the hours of operation shall be set by the planning board, but crushers and screeners shall not operate except between the hours of 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. And there shall be no crushing or screening on Saturday, Sunday, or any state or federal holiday. So that's right in
Is that
our-
documented anywhere available to the public?
Oh, yes, that's in our zoning ordinance. That's under Article 11.
What page is that on?
That's on page 64.
Damn, that's good. You're good. Keep that right up.
And it's available on the town website,
Yeah.
you know.
I'm sorry.
On the right column on the homepage, there's quick links or something, and it says ordinances. Click on that, and it will take you to the page that lists all the ordinance. You click on it, and it brings up the whole ordinance.
I can write that one down. That's all I'm really looking for.
That's good. I didn't know it was that specific in there. Learn something every day. Sometimes.
What was that again there, Joe?
Again, that's in the zoning ordinance, it's page 64. It's Article 11. Let me see. Section 8G. Hours of operation. And your communication to the CEO maybe also mention the other nearby operation as well to ask her to look into that one too.
Very good. Well, thank you.
Thank you for your input.
Any further questions from the board?
Just
And
quickly.
sure, Kevin.
Do you require your contractor to maintain a operations log when the crusher is running?
Yes, they're
Good
required
question.
to do that, I believe, for the parties.
The documentation?
Yeah.
Anything further? I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The public hearing has closed. We'll resume with the regular board meeting shortly.
Okay.
All right, motion is over there. And this comes up. Ready to go into it, folks?
Yep.
All right. Welcome to the August 16th, 2023 meeting of the Lyman Planning Board. This meeting will now come to order. This is a public proceeding, and unless the board specifically goes into executive session, you have the right to hear everything that is being said and to look at all exhibits that are offered. If the board goes into executive session, the reason for doing so shall be precisely stated. Please notify the board chair if you have any difficulty seeing or hearing. The meeting is being recorded for YouTube. In each instance, the burden is upon the applicant to demonstrate compliance with the provisions of the applicable ordinance or ordinances. After the board votes on the merits of each project, it will prepare a written opinion, which will be forwarded within 7 days. The board works from a prepared agenda and will be considering these meetings items in the following order. Hisong Ready Mix Aggregates, Barker's Pond Rentals, Bartlett Pines Subdivision, Merry Morning, review of the planning board mission statement and bylaws. We do have on the schedule updates from our code enforcement officer, but Brenda unfortunately is under the weather. We'll review minutes and conduct old business, referring to the operation of MX 207. Without objection, could we begin with the yes?
Just want to know, the meeting minutes will be from 8:02, the
8-2.
two that are written, or from the previous agenda.
I see.
Okay, 8-2.
Yep.
8-2.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Julie. Without objection,
So can we ask a quick question?
Sure.
We're here for something for the code enforcement. Brenda told us to come, and we
Yes.
didn't list us.
This-
So are we supposed to be here?
on Cottage Road?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Without objection, we'll listen to the presentation on that. On item 6 in the agenda, if that's okay with everybody. Okay, that's going to be
Oh,
down the road.
okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I thought I was
Gonna follow you on it. No jumping the line.
As much as we want to sit here for a few hours, we just want to
Yeah.
make sure we're going to be on the docket.
Understood. Without objection, would we like to start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And long may she wait.
All right, first on the agenda is once again Hisong Ready Mix. And I asked, first off, with the absence of Rod Tetu, I'll entertain a motion to recognize Bill Single as a full voting member for this meeting.
Second.
Okay, I make that motion. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Bill, you're in. Let's see now. Panel members, please correct me if I am not following procedure correctly here, but I think the next thing to do is to go over the 16 standards to see if the application is full, complete, I mean to say, for Hisong Ready Mix. Is that you understand our next step here?
Not complete, is it a complete application or a We're voting on the actual.
On the actual, okay. Did we previously
Done the sidewalk.
acknowledge the complete application?
Right,
Do we have that?
yes.
We do. Okay.
All right.
I see the 16 review standards. Do we have that on record that we went through all 16 for this applicant?
We didn't go through the 16 standards, though. We just went through the
The application,
Go through the
site
application checklist.
Yeah,
Mhm,
description of required submittal.
mhm.
And we approved that, I think on 6.
My apologies.
Hold up, my notes.
623. I have 621 here, is when we went through the site plan checklist.
Okay, so that's been completed.
62123.
Okay. So,
So the next would be the,
Reviewing of the
The review
16 standards.
review standards, those 20 items, correct? Okay.
I've got notes that we've already checked off stuff, so we've already. I don't
it
think we
starts
need to
on
review it again.
8.6B.
Let's see. Site plan checklist is within the application.
So I think we did this on 6.3.
Mm-hmm.
And I think now we need to do this, the 16, like you said.
Okay,
And if that passes, you approve it.
right. So, okay, back to the 16 standards. All right. Number 1, will meet the definitions of the use, zoning district requirements, and any other requirements set forth in this ordinance.
I make a motion that the applicant meets criteria for number 1.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No opposed? 2, will not have a significant detrimental effect on the use and peaceful enjoyment of abutting properties as a result of noise, vibrations, fumes, odor, dust, light, glare, traffic, or other cause. And there was Mr. Armentrout's
Well.
concerns voiced.
Mm-hmm. The owner duly noted it, and I'm sure we'll be addressing, checking into it, and covering if there's any further phone call.
Exactly.
Well, the only thing I would state is that since there was a comment made that when we get to that point, that we ought to reemphasize what's in the ordinance about the hours of operation,
Mhm.
which
Yes.
seems like the hours of operations obviously the activities generate the noise and anything else.
Mhm.
So if we follow that, then we should be okay, I would hope.
Mhm.
Anyway, what you said.
Are you suggesting a condition that we reemphasize or reemphasize this particular requirement?
Yeah, I think, and maybe as a condition, we ought to at least refer to the ordinance.
Mhm.
Because, I mean, it's like everything else, right? Everything's in the ordinance. No, not everything. Some things are in the ordinance, but then you can't find them.
Yeah.
And then you forget about them, and then you go on from there. So,
I do believe the hours of operation are on the approved site
Mhm.
plan.
I believe so.
So
you know what they are?
I don't have a copy of it with me, but I think you said 7 to 5 or something like that.
Okay.
It was 7-4.
7.
Mhm.
Yeah, all I was suggesting was that, and I'm not even sure when this part was added or, about the mineral activities,
Mhm.
but I'm not sure when your last, I mean, it's probably in the record of your last application was. So all I'm saying is whatever we have, it's certainly got to match, it could be more restrictive, but it shouldn't be any less restrictive
Yes.
than what's in the ordinance. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
So you have a motion?
Make a motion that the applicant meets criteria number 2,
With the emphasis.
with the emphasis on hours of operation being emphasized.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second? Any discussion further? All those in favor?
Aye.
3, will not have a significant adverse on adjacent or nearby property values.
It's in the middle of nowhere, surrounded, its neighbor is another gravel pit. So I'll make a motion that the applicant meets the criteria for number 3.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Kevin. Discussion?
We haven't received any information commenting on adverse effects, so there's no information to review in that case, in that area at least. So that's all I would say.
Call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
4, will not create a hazard to pedestrian or vehicular traffic or significant traffic congestion. As Kelly suggested, the location of this property is such that there's not that long pedestrian or vehicular traffic there anyway. So do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion the applicant meets the requirements of number 4.
Second.
Discussion? Call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Number 5, will not result in fire danger.
Rock doesn't burn.
Well,
Well, machines
we're
do.
going to check Maui on that one.
Ooh, too soon, too soon.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion the applicant meets the criteria for number 5.
Do I have a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Will not result in flood hazards or flood damage, drainage problems, ground or surface water contamination, or soil erosion. And I got the check off from the DEP on this. So I think the state
Yeah.
is satisfied,
Mhm.
and they have rather exacting standards. Do I have a motion?
Come on, Bill, use that vote.
I'll make a motion that the applicant meets the requirements of number 6.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Call a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 7, will not create a safety hazard because of inadequate access to the site or buildings for emergency vehicles. So,
No, there's adequate, I mean, I would say there's certainly adequate access to that,
Mhm.
to that site.
If they're rolling dump trucks and cement mixers down there, we can get a fire truck down there.
Yes, indeed. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion the applicant meets the requirements of number 7.
A second?
I'll second.
Discussion. Call a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Sorry. 8, has proposed exterior lighting which will not create hazards to motorists traveling or adjacent public streets, is adequate for the safety of occupants and users of the site, and will not damage the value or diminish the usability of adjacent properties. Not
You don't
mentioned.
have any external lighting, do you? I mean, at night, any exterior lighting?
Yeah, we really don't work at night, and the only lights would be lights on the equipment itself.
Mhm.
And there's no,
And they're not,
there's no adjacent businesses or.
right.
I move that the applicant has fulfilled requirement 8.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 9, makes provisions for buffers and on-site landscaping which provide adequate protection to neighboring properties from detrimental features of the development. The applicant shall provide a plan prepared by a registered landscape architect or other qualified professional approved by the planning board. Well, reclamation was addressed. And what Mr. Pizzi mentioned, DEP has a
There's a
specifics.
100-foot buffer.
Yeah.
Between the facility, the pit, and the road, so. You can't really see it.
Okay.
Unless you drive into the property.
You entertain a motion?
Make a motion that applicant meets the requirements of number 9.
Second? Second. Discussion. Call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mixed provisions, number 10, for vehicular parking, loading, unloading, as well as vehicular and pedestrian circulation on the site and onto adjacent public streets, which would neither create hazards to safety or impose significant burdens on public facilities.
Well, based on what we saw during the site walk and previous visits, et cetera, there's certainly adequate room
Mhm.
on that site. I I make a motion that the applicant meets the requirements of number 10.
Second.
Discussion? Call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
11, makes adequate provisions for the disposal of wastewater and solid waste for the prevention of ground or surface water contamination. It's been duly addressed.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have any wastewater. Well,
No, I mean, we have, actually, on the $47, there is no, I mean, we pump down the port in the springtime
Mhm.
after significant rainfall. But that's through an engineered DEP approved
Right.
dewatering system. There's no other waste.
you don't have any septic there? Do you have a
Actually,
septic?
there's no septic on that site. On the adjacent site with the ready mix plant, there is a small beach field that's was permitted and approved by the town. There's a porta potty at the scale shack there, but doesn't leave.
Emergency use only?
It says here in the, that they're required to do groundwater quality
We do,
tests.
we
And
do. Steve can talk to that, but we provide
Every quarter.
groundwater quality information to the DEP as part of our program. And we also provide it to the town, which I believe we sent to President earlier this year. Both water levels and quality.
That's a quarterly requirement, Seal?
it says quarterly.
Do you have a motion yet?
Nope, make a motion the applicant meets the criteria for number 11.
I'll second that.
Second. Further discussion? Call for vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
12, makes adequate provisions to control erosion in sedimentation.
I'll make a motion that it meets criteria number 12 as it falls with number 11.
Second. Discussion? Call for vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
13, makes adequate provisions to handle stormwater runoff and other drainage on site. That was just addressed. So, I move that the applicant fulfills the requirement number 13.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
14, provides for water supply which meets the demands of proposed use and meets the needs for fire protection purposes.
There's what do we call it? It's not an actual hydrant, it's
A dry hydrant?
a dry hydrant.
Yeah.
On Kennewick Road coming in, it's actually on a piece of property we own, it's in front of the port.
I make the motion that the applicant meets the requirements of number 14.
Second. Further discussion? Call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
15, makes adequate provisions for the transportation, storage, and disposal of hazardous substances and materials as defined by state and federal law, the storage of chemicals, explosives, or hazardous items as defined by the National Fire Protection Association Code 704, Class 3 or 4 materials are not permitted. And you have fuel and such in that area, but
We have a site plan registered with DEP for diesel fuel and other fluids. We really don't have any hazardous, other hazardous materials on site.
Spill prevention control plan.
okay, right.
Identifies what equipment, what's out there, there's no powder fuel, there's no fueling in quarries.
Okay. Fueling pad.
Yes.
Yes, I thought that was permitted beforehand. I move that the applicant fulfills the requirement of number 15.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Call for vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
And finally, 16 will not have an adverse impact on the significant scenic vistas or significant wildlife habitat that could be avoided by reasonable modification of the plan.
Well, I don't know, during the sidewalk, I didn't see a lot of scenic vistas or wildlife.
You're at the top of that berm, yeah. It's-
But you get a nice view there.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion that the applicant meets the requirements of number 16.
Second.
Further discussion? Call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we've completed the checklist. I think the next thing to do is just call for a vote on approval of the expansion of the quarry.
Do we want to, only question I would have is, I'm not trying to make a problem, but do we want to, well, I mean, it's in the ordinance, but do we want to call any specific attention to hours of operation or I don't know if you have a, maybe, I mean, it's in the ordinance, but I'm just saying, that's a possibility for a condition, although it's already covered, because I think our standard boilerplate wording says you gotta follow all the requirements of the ordinance.
Is there a hours of operation sign on the gate?
So, gentlemen,
Oh, well, they're looking for something. Maybe they have the notice.
There's an hours of operations on the approved Mylar that we have.
Oh, yeah.
With the town. I don't know, I can't tell you exactly what those hours are, so I can't confirm with the align with those, but I'm happy to make sure that they do align with the.
Well, we have to write is there some usual words we could, I mean, I'm sorry, is there some wording we could say that, approve, assuming we're gonna, if we approve this, application, approve it to, meet at least the standards of the hours that are shown in the, ordinance.
I have the previous permit.
Good.
It's it was July 2nd of 2014,
That sounds correct.
and it's a GPP-1403. So we could reference that.
What is it?
It's, the previous permit was issued July 2nd, 2014. That's from a,
You got good notes. Good for you.
well, I was reading through the documentation yesterday, and it is documented somewhere in here, one of those letters. And it listed the number is GPP,
GPP?
Gary Paul, 1403, 14-03,
Was that a permit number?
the permit number.
And that has the hours of operation?
Well, I don't know,
Oh,
but I'm
okay.
saying we could
It
reference,
does.
it does.
it does have that? Okay, so you could just reference that that permit number.
I think it
See, all
serves-
those conditions in there
If it's
still
part of the
apply.
regulations, we shouldn't have to reference it at all. It's already there.
One thing I want to state,
DP actually, our regulator covers that as well in terms of operation.
Does it give actual hours in there?
Yeah, well, in terms of noise, is standards of, I think it's 60, certain
Decibel
decibel
levels,
between
right.
7 and, let's say 5 or something. to that nature. And then after 5 or 6 o'clock, it drops to level. But, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's in the permit, the last permit that was approved by.
Right, and I think we should reference it because I know the DEP would be the primary rule, but the town could be even more
More
strict.
specific.
That's right.
Could be more
So
restrictive.
it's possible that the permit that you issued before has different hours that may be more
5 o'clock or
restrictive.
something like
So
that.
if you reference that, then we'll be covered.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I just want to point out that the hours of operation are for crushers and screeners, which does not eliminate
Ah, good point.
hauling trucks or the running of the concrete mix back and forth. This is for the loud noise of the crushers and screeners, which I know from my house, I can hear them over here.
And wasn't that the area that the gentleman was complaining about? Not complaining, but commenting about?
Yes.
Right.
Crushers.
Was the
He
crushers and
wasn't talking
screeners.
about trucks. He was talking about the,
The noise of the vibrations of the
Right.
crushers and everything else. So
Something
just to
like
be
that.
clear, it is crushers and screeners.
So could we add a condition making reference to that permit, but also making reference to the specific provision in our ordinance with regard to the operation of the crushers?
yeah, I'm okay with that. Anybody else is, I mean, listen, gotta come. I don't think it hurts to call attention to it because you're right, though. That's only specific
pieces
things.
of
It's not
equipment.
running trucks back and forth. So that hopefully would not interfere with anything. Shouldn't interfere.
Midsummer make hay while the sun shines.
Yes.
So do I have a motion that the application is approved with that condition?
I'll make that motion.
Second? Bill? Any further discussion? Call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
And Julie, are you okay with the reference to the permit and the specific ordinance?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And Cecile is my backup.
Got it.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck, continued success, and pay lots of taxes.
Yeah.
Beat you to it, Don.
Okay, next on the agenda is Barker Pond Rentals. And we do have a copy of an email. Bless you, Mrs. LaChances.
I do not think they are here. I reached out, did not get a response about them coming tonight.
And just previously, we asked for a narrative on their operations. They have been in operation for a long time, specifically what they're doing right now. I think the year was like 2006. Essentially operating, correct me if I misstate this, as sort of a campground. I think under our definitions, I think it fits there. Should I read the?
Please, into the record, yes.
Okay. Arthur and Carolyn LaChance purchased the property in 1966 as a seasonal business to offset Arthur's teaching career salary. Having summers off was a perfect fit. At the time of purchase, there were 2 cabin rentals, a small canteen to sell food, hamburgers, hot dogs, chips, soda, candy, etc. The beach area was open to the public for a parking fee. You could also rent the beach area for special events. The local recreation departments would come during weekdays, Kennebunk, Arundel, Biddeford, and so on. There have always been restrooms and changing rooms for the public. There have always been 4 charcoal pits for barbecue grilling and 2 docks for swimming. We have always had a horseshoe pit as well. We have improved the property by putting in a new septic system and bathhouse. This was done with an engineer to design the system and approved by the town with all permits granted. In closing, other than not serving any food or beverages, we are not doing anything different than we have been done that has ever been done on the property. So,
Does that mean that that last sentence that they provided says, I wonder if it says, other than not serving any food or beverage, so it would imply that in the past, they have been serving
Yeah.
food and beverages, so they're gonna stop doing that.
They have.
They already have.
Yeah,
They said they had a couple of years.
years ago.
Yeah. Okay, just want to make sure I understood.
Is this a sufficient description of their operations? They came in with a conditional use permit, I think, originally.
No, I don't think they don't have any permit.
They
I
have
believe
nothing.
there is no permit.
Hmm.
That has ever
They
been
were
issued.
existing before zoning.
Right,
Yeah,
so there's no, so to me, we should have a site plan. We should see, don't you think?
yeah, they fell through the cracks. They've been doing it, it was never conscious, go, oh, wait a minute, we have no authority to do anything because they're grandfathered.
Well,
So I think it was brought up so that everything, they could get not a campground permit, but something that falls under our ordinance that we can define them with.
Mhm.
Yes.
I don't see any, probably just gotta find out what they are.
But if they're grandfathered, we really can't impose anything on that, can we?
I think grandfathering, it just allows the
Them
use to continue.
to
But it
continue.
doesn't mean that they should continue without a permit.
Right.
If it needs a permit in our ordinance,
well,
I would disagree with that.
well, then how would there be
They're
any control over
grandfathered.
anything?
Well,
They're set.
did Mr. LaChance say that they do have a state licensing? Or a state permit of some sort?
I don't
For
know.
campground, yeah, I think.
That's to my recollection, and I thought I'd asked.
She emailed it, but all I could see was the little top corner, and I asked twice for her to resend it so I could print it out.
Nothing, huh?
and have not gotten a reply to that.
Well, it would seem to me that in, just to make sure we're all on the same page and there's we're covering this properly, it would seem like we ought to, I would suggest we, unless they have some violent objection, that we do and we can talk about it, but I think we ought to do a site walk, look and see what they're doing, and then write up something. This is a good start, but a bulletized list or something saying, here are the activities that are, that have been existing and are, can't use the word grandfathered, but are pre-existing activities or whatever the correct wording is.
Right.
And give them a document, a notice of decision or something that says bing, 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 bing. So in case somebody in the future complains or comments that they don't have a permit, they would have something to go by that would be a registered document. Because, I mean, minutes of the meeting here are not, they're okay. It's good to have them, et cetera, but I think the only thing legal really is a notice of decision.
I think what you're suggesting is good, but I don't think we can impose anything on what they're doing. As long as
Yeah.
that was existing, that is set. But
I'm
to-
not saying we should impose anything. I'm just saying that we should document
Yep.
what's there and then have a public hearing on it and say, maybe some neighbor will come by and say, oh, no, they never had that, or whatever. Or, they never did that, or maybe we'll have no activity, no.
I
no
think what brought
complaints.
this to the surface was a Facebook posting of
Ah,
September
yeah, that's
17th,
right.
2022. Wouldn't this be lovely for your wedding? We have a brand new
Oh, yeah,
32
yeah.
by 16 event tent with windows on the side, and then they're thinking charging 3,000 per day. So that put it into a special events category, which raised it to the surface and said,
What else are you doing?
exactly.
But they've been open for rentals for years.
Well, they didn't
Not
say
for
that, did they? Or
weddings.
did they say that in here?
Yes, yes, they do say that.
No, but I mean, for wedding
Not for
rentals?
weddings.
Well, it didn't say specifically wedding, but they were open for special events.
Right.
That they
And
could rent the place, so I mean,
they said they had 2 small cabins, and then there's, Barker Pond Camp Rentals. And we are seeing a completely modernized, revitalized, updated, improved, and expanded camp.
and is there anything wrong with them doing that?
So maybe we could,
Remodel an existing place?
Right, but now it's income producing property and it's short-term rental and it is commercial now.
I think what Don mentioned is a valid point. Document what's there
Exactly.
and then
Yeah.
put something in writing to say, these are the existing conditions, thank you very much.
And then if they want to do something in addition to that, then they can come back and ask for a
Right.
permit or whatever, to modification of it, because this way everybody's covered, because, our minutes don't, they're really, and you can't, they don't mean anything really. You got to have a notice of decision, my opinion.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is that,
just saying that she just say that, that they had town, that the design, the septic design was done by an engineer, was approved by the town with all permits granted, so we should see the permits. I think, if there are permits.
Yeah, hopefully that's on file. I hope it is.
It should be on file.
You never know. I hope it is.
I think it was
Yeah, that should
fairly
be-
recent, if I remember. I think that was a recent
Yeah.
improvement that they made.
No, it sounds like it's fine, but I just say document it and then,
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is let's set a date for a site walk, notify the owners, and then do the site walk, public hearing, notice of decision and approach. So what is the earliest possibility for site walk?
we'll say,
We'd have to contingent upon that working out for the LaChances.
You give me a date, I will contact them.
We have a time frame according to
Right.
statute that we have to follow.
And
that's how we get complicated here.
Don is our current expert
Well,
on.
I'm not much of an expert on anything, really.
at the contrary.
Again, this isn't really a formal process, so I'm not sure all those requirements are necessary.
Well, I think if we do a site walk,
Yeah.
the problem with, not a problem, but an issue with site walks, if you have 3 members at a site walk, it's a public event. So, I mean,
has
that's,
to be advertised as
it's like the select board meeting. If you have three of them in one place, it's a meeting.
Mhm.
Or, I mean, it should be open to the public. And same thing with sidewalk. It's supposed to be open to the public.
Yeah.
So if three of us go there, which we should, then we ought to notify them.
Right, he was very open, he's come down,
Yeah.
check it out, look at it, everything.
Yeah.
That's true.
What the hell was that here? I forget what I said.
What we just
So-
gotta do is find where it fits. I got no problem with the facility at all.
Right.
My apologies, I don't have the calendar in front of me.
Um,
Oh,
well-
is that-
Our best practices was 1 week for sidewalks. So, I mean,
And it only has to go on the website
in the town sign.
and the town side.
Yeah. So we don't have,
So
you want to, let's see, what do we got here? Today is the 16th.
Oh, that's Labor Day weekend.
Now, the next meeting is actually on the 6th,
Yeah.
which is the first Wednesday in September.
So there's the weekend, if you want to do it on a weekend,
Yeah, I don't know, do we?
I don't know. I'm asking you.
We could-
Saturday or Sunday would be Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, I want to do it then.
That
Before,
is-
Before the Wednesday,
before the next meeting.
before the next meeting, 5:30 or something.
That's
Unless you want to, yeah, if you want to do it like next Wednesday or the Wednesday after, just before Labor Day weekend, I can contact them and see what works.
So right now, because of the way it falls, we have two Wednesdays between this meeting and the next meeting,
Yes.
just the way it falls. So the question would be, do you want to do it on a Wednesday night, or do you want to do it just before the meeting on the 6th? Do we have anything else that's holding us up on the 6th?
Not at present. Before the next meeting, is that what I'm hearing? Okay, I'm gonna say 5:30, that'd be September 6th.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Yes, just down the road.
And meet there, then reconvene here.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, that's contingent upon it being convenient for the owners as well.
Yeah, if they have some issue, they would, hopefully they would tell Julie, I would think.
All right.
All right, that sounds reasonable.
Okay, next on the agenda, we've got Bartlett Pines subdivision and a letter from the Waterboro Planning Board.
There is no letter from the lawyer yet.
Okay.
Town lawyer has not notified yet.
All right,
Oh, yeah, it's in here. I knew it's in here. Now,
just from the Waterboro Planning Board. On behalf of the Waterboro Planning Board, thank you for hosting the recent joint meeting of the boards to discuss Phase 3 vacation of the Bartlett Pines subdivision. The Planning Board discussed this matter on our August 2nd, 2023 meeting and voted 4-0 to waive our rights under Title 30A, Section 44031A, to further review this portion of the project since it is located entirely within the town of Lyman.
Yeah.
Again, thank you for your attention to this matter. Okay. So the two outstanding things are, number one, the letter from the
We own it.
our town attorney. My understanding was essentially absolving Mr. Garreau of, I'm sorry?
Good draw.
Goudreau, I'm sorry, of the responsibility of installing the cistern on his property, and I think that was to the satisfaction of the homeowners association. The other issue I think is still outstanding is the installation of the cistern, because I think both the fire chiefs from Waterboro and Goodman's Mills indicate that that is still a necessity. I did a little bit of investigation, contacted a gentleman with Senator King's office about possible grants. He sent me in a couple of directions, and the one possibility is a program operated through the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
Huh.
It's called the Community Wildlife Defense Grant Program. A homeowners association can apply for that. So maybe that's one thing that we can notify the HOA about there. I also mentioned this to Matt DeRose, our fire chief, and he's looking into the matter as well. Another possibility is something called the Maine Municipal Bond Bank. If Waterboro and Lyman would be willing to borrow the money through this government operation state institution that makes loans on behalf of municipalities, then it can be paid off over time, 30 some odd years. I'm just kind of throwing ideas out there. If there are, say, 10 residences there, 3 lie within Lyman, maybe the Lyman picks up 30% of it, 70% for Waterboro. The question I think still remains is exactly what's the price tag of installing a 20,000 gallon cistern? And Bill, you mentioned a ballpark figure as well. I contacted an excavator just past couple of days who does this work to see what the price tag would be. He got back to me today saying that he has to do a little pricing with the company from which he gets the cisterns, and he'd get back to me on the price. So, long story short, looking into some means by which that necessity can be addressed.
But are you saying, did we get anything from writing from the fire departments saying that they really, really, really want a cistern?
Not in writing, to my recollection. Anybody?
Because they were talking about ponds nearby, I mean, and all this other stuff.
Right.
If I were a homeowner up there, I mean, especially since there's the 3 lots that are in Lyman are not part of the HOA, are they?
No.
They're not part of the
One of
subdivision.
them isn't. Is it one of them?
Because I thought he took that lot number 6 and subdivided into 3 lots. So they're not even part of that's the part that's being abandoned, right? Lot
Has been
number
abandoned.
6. So,
Phase 3 was lot 6, phase 2.
right,
When it went belly up, it was purchased by one entity who wanted to restructure it. The cost of restructuring it was cost prohibitive, so he just bought phase 3, stepped out of the
It's not in it
association
now.
and kept the lot lines, which would be a 3-unit subdivision under our ordinance. One of my big concerns is the residents of the subdivision. God forbid something happened to one of their properties, that there was a fire. Their insurance company looked and investigated it and found out there wasn't a cistern that was supposed to be placed in and denied the claim. Now, all of a sudden, they're up the creek.
okay, but that's I mean,
That's why I'm adamant about the cistern.
well, all I'm saying is that the lawyer was supposed to come up with some wording to cover this subject, I believe. I thought he was going to cover this, but
So it's still pending.
yeah, so I mean, I don't know,
Motion to the table?
yeah,
So moved.
yeah,
Well, I think the whole fall down on that was the 2 boards vacating that phase 3 without addressing that issue. And
right.
I don't see how you go back and rectify it at this point. And maybe I was mistaken, but the first 2 phases were only 5 houses, if I remember. That's
Something
all
like
it was.
that, yeah.
No,
5,000.
So
There
that
was-
puts a big cost on those property owners to foot the bill for something like that.
Well, I don't think the town can force them to put a cistern in. I could be totally
No.
wrong.
No, I don't think so. But again, if we
No,
find
but
some
even
means-
if they were gonna pay, to pay down a loan to put it in, you're not talking very many people putting money in the pot.
And the cost of maintaining
Well, Mr.
it as
Gaudreau
well.
said he would contribute.
I mean, they were talking, what, $40,000?
I've heard a range from 20 to 50
Yeah.
so far, but nothing.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. In phase 1 and 2 minus lot 6, there were 9 units.
Oh, 9 units? Okay. It's more than enough. So we have is there a motion on the table to,
I think that there was a motion. on
Yeah, I
the
so
table
voted.
until such time that the
we gotta
town
get,
attorney can return.
yeah, we gotta get a letter from the town attorney. Yeah, I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Good. We Put that off the side. Next on the agenda, Mary Morning.
Good evening.
Mr.
Aye.
Johnson.
Caleb Johnson and Shannon Richards, owner of 382 Goodwin's Mills Road. We thank you for your conditional approval last year. We were lucky enough to land on a great excavator who could help us bury approximately 1.5 acres or 2 acres of stumps. So that has been met, which was one of our biggest challenges. And so that's good. Our architect at Woodhall in Portland has worked hard with the with the state fire marshal. And you guys have a letter of approval from the state fire marshal that I sent along to Brenda. States clearly that no fire protection is required on that property for its building type and size. The reason we're here tonight is the third item was that we install a new septic system. Our septic system is working. In other words, we can flush our toilets and nothing seems to be going wrong. But it was a condition of approval. We are bringing a building. You guys would know better than us, but as far as we can see, it seems like maybe 20 years since this building has been heavily occupied. And we don't have record that this septic system that's in the field to the south of the side parking lot of the 60s edition, so the southernmost parking lot. We don't have any record that has been done since like the 60s or the 40s. So we are, even though our septic system is working fine, we will continue to have a very light use there. We do have a loan with Seaport Credit Union that is supposed to go in effect for our phase 2 to bring the 1940s portion of the building up to code so that we can get occupancy permit and occupy it.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but in your letter, that was like in process, that's been closed?
It's closing on the 25th. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. We have conditional approval and a commitment letter, which means they're legally obliged to close at this point. So on the 25th, we're expecting to have a closing, which is a week from Friday, I believe. And that will give us the funds. We've done phase 1, which is the 1960s edition. That's occupied. And then we're going to do phase 2, which is the 1940s. We're calling it the garden level. You could call it the basement if you wanted to. But we're going to bring the garden level and the second floor, the 4 main classrooms, into compliance with codes and with the fire marshal. And I believe we have 4 commitment letters already from locals, which is nice. We were kind of expecting to be drawing from Portland or Biddeford, and I think we have. Am I right, Lyman?
Yeah, the Flowers, the Soap, the Stitcher, and.
Yeah. Anyway, they're locals, right? Yeah, so that's nice. We were happy about that.
We got an inquiry today from somebody who wants a dance studio.
And a dance studio. So,
You want to do what?
A
Dance studio.
Studio.
A dance studio?
yeah.
Okay, great.
So, long and short of it, we're here to ask you for an extension. Let's call it 6 months. Our general contractor is indicating that we could be complete. We signed that contract today, and it was the end of November. Did you read that? I read it. I believe it said the end of November. So I don't know. Give us an extension through January, February. But our local Wilkinson Excavation, who's just over the border in Dayton. He likes to say that, he'll get to it whenever, and then he gets to it the next day. So I don't know anybody like that, but Shannon and I are big fans of Wilkinson Excavation, who's taking care of us. And I would expect that there would be no problem getting it done this year. So that's what we're here to do. We'd like an extension on that singular condition to give us 6 months from today to get that brand new septic system installed where the old one was, but to the west of it.
When was this permit application originally granted? Was it 1 year or 2 years?
We're like a year. Oh, it was granted for.
They put a copy of it here. It's in your book.
You guys gave us conditional approval for 1 year, and that expired in like July 23rd, I think.
Well, the permit, August 17th of last year is what I have.
Okay, well, it's expired. We did 2 things. We did not have the funding, nor the septic design, nor the excavator to get the third thing done. So now we do have all 3 of those, and we have a building permit in with Brenda for phase 2. She has the letter from the state fire marshal, which was one of the hardest things to obtain. And so with your gracious extension, she'll issue us that building permit. Our general contractor expects to be in motion on the 5th of September.
As this was issued during the whole COVID pandemic crisis and things got delayed, I think we should follow as we have with the past several permits that were issued during the COVID, that we grant an extension.
Excuse me, Joe,
Yes, Bill.
I hate to interject this. I got to recuse myself from this. They're customers of mine.
Okay.
They're what?
No problem.
They're customers of yours?
Yeah.
Okay.
He takes care of the,
Greenest grass in Lyman.
Well,
it's
I hope
damn
you're
nice
doing a
looking
good job
grass.
then.
So I'll nominate Cecile to be a voting member during this proceedings.
Second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Right?
Okay, so I'm just reading your permit, and it says, you may not even have to, because it says here, site plan approval secured under the provisions of the zoning ordinance by a vote of the planning board shall expire if the work or change involved is not substantially commenced within 1 year, which you have commenced the improvements of the board's approval date, and completed within 2 years of the
Yeah.
approval date. So we're still,
So Brenda sent us 2 strong letters requesting that you guys go and inspect everything and letting us know that our condition of approval has expired and that we would not be allowed to move forward without your extension. So
I see that.
She's new too, so she's maybe covering herself a bit.
here we stand.
Well, I think it's more a matter of, have you done anything in terms of substantially beginning the work on the septic system?
Yes, yeah,
We're
we,
doing piss pits right now.
So
We've
the-
had the septic
Sep-
designer, working with us, it's just. like-
since last year, he's been,
Yeah, we've designed
Albert
what
Frick
it
has
is.
been evaluating it, so, we could have been at home having some beers, but you guys are nice, so here we are.
Um, No, I think, given Brenda's interpretation of the permitting so far, that it would behoove us to entertain an extension.
Just so it's official.
Wait a minute, I got a question here. Wait a second. I'm just reading the conditions of approval. Okay. Item number 4 was, the applicant shall ensure that the fire protection system meets current codes, is tested, the water system supply is adequate, and shall provide documentation of operability to the Lyman Code Enforcement Officer. And when you go over to the condition that covers,
Number 14?
is it number 14? Where is it? Aha. Standard 14 provides for a water supply that meets the demands of proposed use and meets the needs for fire protection. And then we said in the findings here that the applicants propose that their structure has an existing fire protection sprinkler system. The board requested documentation that there is adequate water supply for the fire protection sprinkler system and that the fire protection sprinkler system is operable and meets current fire protection codes. Now, you're sort of coming back and say, hey, we don't really need that.
Correct. Yeah, fire marshal is the one who administers that for the state and determines on behalf of the code enforcement offices whether it's required. So we went through that process with the state fire marshal. State fire marshal, based on our architect's analysis, and then we have a what's called a life safety 101 plan filed with the state fire marshal. They agreed with it. There was some back and forth. It's requiring us, unfortunately, to remove the historic schoolhouse doors and transom windows on the second floor, which is pretty tragic, and replace them with 1 hour doors. But once that is complete, there is no sprinkler required. State fire marshal has given us a permit. And so now Brenda's accepted that over the,
Where is that documentation?
Brenda has it. Brenda and Julia. Yeah.
Did she give you a copy of the letter from the fire marshal? I thought that I put one.
Is that in there?
Yeah, we submitted that a while ago.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure.
Just want to make sure we have a
I
copy.
don't think we have that.
I don't see that.
Well, there's,
Last page of stuff.
is it from the fire marshal? Is it
It's
from?
from the state fire marshal.
State fire marshal.
No, I don't see that. Yeah, I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I just want to make sure we do what we say we're going to do.
No, I get it.
I can- This is the packet that I had
Maybe it's,
Found in his file, it's the letter that he wrote, with the very last page is the letter from the fire marshal. But I thought that you got that last meeting with the packet from Brenda.
oh, maybe, I don't know. Could be in the pile
I mean,
here.
this is the packet that we got, I think. It was,
Isn't that the
stapled
state fire
together.
marshal in the back there? It's only a
Okay.
one-page document.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got one from the,
Okay, you just says, this is a construction permit. It
Correct.
says,
site evaluator.
it gives the address, et cetera, and says occupancy type, business, secondary use, no sprinkler system.
There it
It
is.
says fire alarm system, barrier-free, construction mode, new building? Not a new building. Unprotected ordinary type 3, code 200 or something, final number of stories 2. It's just a permit basically that expires November 15th, 2023.
Yeah, and that's what we're looking for because Brenda cannot issue us a building permit without that state fire marshal approval. And that state fire marshal approval clearly states that it's an unprotected. Unprotected means no sprinkler.
But the only question I would have is that, I mean, I don't know. I mean, this looks perfectly legitimate. I'm not saying it isn't. But do we have anything from the fire chief? I mean, because if there's a fire there, the fire chief's going to have to respond, right?
Yeah, but there is a, I mean, you guys please correct me if I'm wrong. State fire marshal is the one who administers life safety for the state, which is
I
the
would assume
National Fire Protection Association, NFPA code. And they typically do that on behalf of the code enforcement office. The code enforcement office issues construction or building permits, but on a commercial building, they will not do so without state fire marshal approval. And that's from a state level.
They provide minimum required. We as a board can make it more restrictive.
Is that I mean, not to be difficult, but is that a planning board purview to review for fire protection and life safety?
Yeah.
Okay.
And normally we say just, as long as it satisfies the fire chief.
Correct.
And
So
he's the
it's,
expert for the town because they're the ones.
and
that are
he's going to
have
go with
respond.
the NFPA. He's going to go with the NFPA and the state fire marshal.
I don't
And
know what he's gonna do.
we can do that. I'll be happy to talk to him, but the state fire marshal has given us approval as an unprotected building.
Because going back in my memory, when we did our site walk,
Mm.
one of the questions that came out, I know to my mind and I voiced was, were they sprinklers? There is an existing sprinkler system in there.
Right.
And it was to be brought up to code so that pumps, God forbid something happens, pumpers could come in and connect to the pipe work on the sprinkler systems and contain it to that area which needs it versus
So
damaging the
apparently,
entire structure.
that type of standpipe sprinkler system, the one that's existing only at the basement level, and that there is a connection to at the boiler room. When we last discussed it last year, there was the thought, I am an architect, but I'm not a sprinkler expert. There was the thought that maybe we will utilize that sprinkler system. That sprinkler system has to be ripped out. We've had all sprinkler designs in the state are design built. The sprinkler companies design them to the NFPA specifications. The sprinkler companies looked at it. This is no longer an operable system. The whole thing has to come out. Furthermore, the cistern concept there, I don't know if that was installed. I'm assuming that was installed in the 60s. Probably what happened there is when there's a cafeteria in the basement there. So probably when they decided to make the basement an assembly space by putting a cafeteria down there, the state fire marshal said, well, now you're going to need a sprinkler system down there. So they put in a sprinkler system. This is all defunct. Now, since it's a type 3 building, brick with wood exterior masonry bearing walls with wood joists and truss, that's a type 3. And now that we have occupancy of less than, I don't know, the project architect would have to be here and explain it, but we have an occupancy far less than you would have if it was an assembly building, such as a school or a church. Now sprinkler is no longer required. So if we come back to you and say, hey, we want to put a church in there, different game entirely. Now the occupancy is going to be 600 people. sprinkler system is going to be required. It can't be the type of system that's in there. We can't connect to the town line. So the to put a sprinkler system, even though it is not required by NFPA and the state fire marshal, we got a quote for $350,000, which is a non-starter.
Right.
So that just makes the building empty, which would obviously
but-
not work for us.
The point I was trying to make is that the only thing that's changed between last year and this year is that you've done more work. You started your renovations and you
Yep.
looked into the adequacy of the sprinkler system and you found out, number one, it's not adequate. Number two, it cost a fortune to make it adequate. I think that's a correct statement. You said 350.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that those statements, pardon me, but those statements would be moot because the sprinkler system by the authority having jurisdiction on the NFPA is not required.
Okay.
So whether it's adequate or
Not so
inadequate.
fast, not so fast. All I'm saying is that the way this notice of decision is written, you are required to put a fire protection sprinkler system in. You want to change that, you want us to change that requirement.
I do.
That's
Well,
what you're asking
I would
for.
say that you substitute I would ask them two things. Give us a 6-month extension on the installation of septic system ready to go. Second, I would ask that you change the requirement to update the sprinkler system to say a state fire marshal approval of a NFPA 101 life safety plan is adequate. That's how the state and the local governments determine that it's safe for people to be in buildings.
And I'm not arguing about that. The only thing I'm saying is that
Yeah.
I wouldn't vote for that unless I got something from the fire chief in writing that said he agreed with your comments. Now, whether you say he would be overridden by the state fire marshal, maybe not, but
I have no doubt he'll agree with it, so we're
We
happy to
go
go.
by-
We're happy to go talk to the guy, and on top of that, we would like to meet the guy and take him through our building, show him what's going on, show him how because we did change the vehicular circulation around the building. So he should just see that. So we'd be happy to go talk to him. But furthermore, turns out we didn't need to be here, so we'll carry forward with our renovation.
well, not so
Right.
fast, not so fast. Wait a minute now. Hold the phone. You have an issue. You have an issue right now. Okay. Your issue is that you're not meeting the requirements of this notice of decision. Okay.
Is that true? Because we've commenced the work.
No,
and we
no,
have-
no, I'm saying standard 14 here that we talked about fire protection, stuff like that.
Sure.
You're not going to meet that. Okay. You're stating you're not going to meet that. So what we need to do is to modify this
Right.
notice of decision to make it come into the more realistic situation, as long
Correct.
as fire chief agrees with that and says, yeah, they're perfectly correct. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong at all. I'm not,
Yep.
it sounds like you've done your homework perfectly. But also, I thought wasn't Brenda suggesting we need to do a site walk or not over there?
I believe she.
She was.
She would
Absolutely.
like you to schedule a site walk to include the fire chief.
Yeah,
This would maybe tie it all together,
Yes.
make sure everything's okay. Then if we do, assuming we do vote to change the notice of decision,
Mhm.
we put the wording in there correctly, we're all on board. You got something that gets registered in York County and you're good to go and it's a legal document. Because this is really, we can talk all we want, but the only thing that cuts any mustard is the notice of decision. in my
Let's
opinion.
make that happen.
So, I mean, that's what I think we ought to do.
we need a request for a modification of the original notice of decision.
Well, we can do that when we can.
I mean,
He's
I'm
already
requ-
asked that.
do you need a written request? Because I'm requesting now that we
Sort of
modify that and vote on it.
Could we ask the applicant to forward this from the state fire marshal to Chief DeRose? Schedule a discussion with him. If the chief was to document his approval of this, that there be no need for a sprinkler system, then we can go back and modify the notice of decision.
Right.
And although Brenda may have suggested us doing a sidewalk, I think that would obviate the need for it.
No, I don't know.
If it's okay by Matt?
I would suggest that we ought to hear what Brenda has to say. because
Brenda,
there may be some issues. I mean, I'm not saying there's any issues because I don't talk to her.
No, I mean, she's a code enforcement officer, so she instantly accepted the letter from the state fire marshal because that's why she has, I mean, that's her job. That's what she does.
Yeah.
So she instantly accepted that, but she said no. And maybe she's right, maybe she's wrong. I'm learning tonight. She said, no, you need to get an extension on the septic system, like, because you're outside of the conditions. So I said, oh, so that's what we're here to do. But she has no issue with issuing us a permit because all that is required in most municipalities, if not all, is a letter from the fire marshal. She's then cleared to give us a building permit.
So once again, until we hear directly from Brenda about the necessity or lack thereof of a site walk, again, contacting the Goodwin Mills Fire Department chief, presenting this information to him, getting some written documentation from him.
Yep.
Gives us at least some impetus to make a change.
I'll put an email out to Brenda and the chief tomorrow, that they coordinate on that and that they give you guys some type of documentation on that. I know Brenda will be fine with that because she's ready to roll as soon as I get permission from you guys to put in my septic system.
I don't think you need permission from us.
Well, she thinks you do.
Anyway.
Just along the lines of the septic system, I asked the board members to check their memory banks when there was a previous proposal for using that property.
Yeah.
There was concern about water table,
Hmm.
which I think was a very critical point in the disapproval of that project. Had your engineer mentioned to you about the rather high water table that exists in that area?
Our
Impact on the septic system?
yeah, he hasn't. He's been doing the test pits. It's Brady Frick. He does a large portion of them here, he is aware because he's done the test pits as well as our excavator is aware of the water table, and he did tell us that it's surprisingly high. But he's done the design now twice. He did it once for you guys in something like 17 or 18. You would know better than I did when you hired Harriman Associates to do plans to turn that into the town hall.
Yeah.
So I took that document, I gave it to him, and I asked him to update it for our new use. And so we have agreed, even though don't freak out about this, but he insists we got to design it for 80 people. So I'm like, well, we cannot see a situation in the near future where there's 80 people in that building, but that's the minimum he can design it for. So that's what he's doing. So it'll be way overkill. But at the same time, I think it's just the lowest he can possibly do for an office building of 10,000 square feet. That's what it is.
At the same time, you're permitted for 24 events over there and
Yeah.
retail sales of
Sure. Yeah.
material that the folks
So we're
use there, great, and I would think that would be a little bit of a test of the septic system unless they're,
Yeah, and all excavators are super thrilled with that soil. So, as well as Brady Frick, he was like, yeah, you're not, we got no clay. We've got, it's just sand on top of sand on top of sand.
where I live.
And so,
okay.
yeah, we're doing pretty good over there. So I'm not, they're aware of it and they've done all the, the necessary test pits. And then I guess, I don't know if it's a typical thing that, it's the HHE 200 is the name of the design form that they have to fill out for the state. And I don't know if it's a regular requirement of that the excavator has to dig a test pit and then get back to the designer, but it's all in process.
Any further questions, concerns?
No, but do we want to just, I would suggest we talk to Brenda too, and do we want to ask to do another site walk or not with this? That's a thought we
That
ought
was her
to check with her,
Yes.
because I thought she was interested in us doing that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think she kind of brought it up
Okay,
and said she'd like to have another site walk, because
but we're not holding
And there maybe?
She took over after all of this had happened,
Yeah.
so.
She did we busted two holes in the end of the 1960 edition.
I saw that.
Put in two garage doors. and she did the permitting on that work.
Yeah.
So she reviewed our structural engineering on that and our electrical. So she knows it a little bit, but I think you might be right that she never came to the site.
Well, somebody
Yeah.
came and took pictures like the day we're done. And then I
That
got,
was probably her, because I called her and I'm like, we're good to go. She's like, all right. In any case, here's what we would kindly ask of you guys. You guys know what it's like to contract, other than with our lovely excavator who does things the next day, but we're good to go on the 5th. I would really like not to move that date, because that could push us out an untold amount of days if they let those subcontractors go for the 5th. So I would love, if you want to do a site back, you're September 5th, we are ready to start construction.
Of your
Second phase of construction.
second phase.
Yep, which will include the septic system, which will include a new lighting system, a new mechanical system, new insulation, removing all of the bad construction that has happened over the past, since
Right.
1966.
restorative in nature.
Restorative in nature. It's just bringing the building back to occupiable shape. We're set to go. I don't want to lose those contractors. We would be happy to host you all at a site walk. A lot of progress has been made. We would love to just get a building permit, which is all we need. We'd love to get that building permit, issued well in advance of the 5th. That's what our goal is. So happy to host you whenever you want
No, I
to,
don't
whenever you want to go.
think, A sidewalk would preclude us from entertaining a 6-month extension on the septic system.
Yeah,
Um,
that's only a good thing.
I think maybe we should leave it as until such time that Brenda is back in the office to run the idea of a sidewalk past her. Here it is, the 16th of August. We'll have plenty of time, I think.
No, he won't. Wait, what was your drop dead date?
Well, our contractors are coming on the 5th of September. And so if we don't have a building permit in hand, what's
Yeah,
going to
5th of
happen is those
September
guys are going
before
to
our next
disperse.
It is
Yeah,
Tuesday.
that's the day before.
Yeah. Damn.
I mean, I need a building permit.
Yeah, I got.
I need
got
it. But what I'm saying though, I'm just suggesting something. I need a building permit so I don't lose my contractors.
Right.
I can put that money to work. The septic system is what Brenda thinks is the problem. She does not have a problem. She's the building inspector. She has no problem with my state fire marshal thing. So if you guys would be so kind to just give us a 6-month extension on a brand new septic system, as far as she's concerned, I'm ready to go. And I will follow through, get the state fire, get the local fire department over there, do a site visit, like loop everybody in. I just want a building permit so I can keep going.
I got no problem with the building permit extension for the septic. My issue is I would like to see a formal request for a revision of the letter stating specifically why you want to not put in the sprinkler systems and the alternative as recommended by the state fire marshal.
I think we
This-
already have that letter issued by our architect to the state fire marshal, so we can just forward that.
Right, that gives us a leg to stand on to say, because now, even though this is televised and recorded, someone else could go, well, they're just changing the condition. This way, it's in the file. You're requesting a change for the conditions that were put on the original approval.
Well, they are.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think there's probably already documentation we can just forward from an architecture office to the state and then back and forth and then.
Yep.
Should be fine.
Anything further?
So back to one of the original comments, it sounds like they've substantially started the work.
Mhm.
So therefore, they're still covered. Correct?
Well,
Except for the sprinkler system, they need to request that change. But for everything else, let's go on, move on.
being that Brenda kind of brought this up, again, she was, came in on the fly here. I think it'd be, wouldn't hurt any, it would be advisable just to grant the extension, entertain the extension for 6 months for the septic system so that gets covered.
Right.
And then you can move on.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
And I will file a formal letter with you folks that rather than install a new septic system, I would like you to sprinkler system, I'd like you to consider
The recommendations of the state fire marshal.
blah,
Exactly.
blah, blah,
I will submit that letter to you, to Brenda. Well, I'll submit it to Brenda and I'll submit it to the fire chief over here. Is that right? Fire chief.
Matt
And then
Duros.
I'll get that whole process going. I have no problem with that. And I look forward to meeting him and taking him through the building because that's what's best for everybody.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we grant a 6-month extension for the installation of the septic system.
Second?
I'll second.
Second. Discussion? Before I call for a vote, may I please refer to something else in your letter, Mr. Johnson. We are not running a marina or a boat repair for hire, but you will certainly continue to see plenty of boats around the property. We like being on the water and working with our hands. That's not pertinent to the septic system, but I think after we take a vote on that, I'd like for you to address that.
Sure.
Please.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion at hand? Call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carries.
Okay, got that done.
Okay,
So on that issue,
please.
I was sensing from Brenda, who wanted to like get in the building immediately and like she was, I don't know, there was something up. So I kind of like, talked to her twice on the phone. Someone is like complaining that they see our personal boat, 1966 wooden boat that we're restoring
With our own hands.
with our own hands. There's someone that was complaining to her that somehow must not be legal.
Wasn't there at some point in time more than one boat there on my way
Oh,
over
yeah,
here?
but we have 3 boats.
Uh-huh.
Our family has like 2. I mean, you're going to see 6, 8 boats there, just like you see. Go down anywhere and you'll see 5 RVs. Is there a law about how many ATVs you can have on a property? How many boats we can own? I don't know.
Well, no, but if
Unregistered vehicles, no more than 3. I don't know if that pertains.
They're all registered.
Registered.
They're all registered in the city of Biddeford.
I was gonna say, if there's, if there, the impression was you were,
Operating a marina. or-
operating
operating
a
a
boat
marina.
restoration thing there, then you'd have to get a permit for that.
No, it's like if you are, it's
I mean-
like, so we are supposedly in a single family, like a separate issue again. Like
You're in a
what we all,
residential zone.
like, let's talk about that. I understand that that's the way the zone was drawn, but starting at the southern edge of our property, which was built as a school, then the next thing over is a church. Then the next thing over is a daycare and some type of retail. The next thing over is what? Are we at Town Hall now? And then we go to Goodwin's Mills General Store. So I would also humbly suggest to you that this could have been an error in drawing the lines.
No,
This is not a single family zone.
no, I'm just saying, there's existing businesses here. And for
We're in a
example,
business zone.
R&R Oil is under a conditional permit. So, I
Okay.
mean, they came and followed the whole process to get their.
I got no
permit.
problem with that.
Yeah.
I'm saying to you, off
Yes,
the
there may be
record,
some
et cetera, it does not necessarily, it does not make sense that you're here in Lyman, now we're a taxpayer here.
Good.
We don't have a town center to speak of other than this. And a town center is a healthy thing for a town.
Mhm.
And we are certainly the farthest south example of a non-residential use. And to call, at some point, we should deal with the fact that it's nice to have downtowns. And it's nice to have commercial uses in a town so you can get services within your town.
But that
We have
requires
fire-
a complete zoning
I
change.
completely understand. This is my life at planning boards. I regularly am looking for zoning changes, et cetera, et cetera. Not my first rodeo. I'm just saying, like, if I was to do, and someday I'll do it for you when we have reason to be back, which I'm sure we will. If we do a diagram, a figure ground diagram, here's all the single family residences. Here is all the commercial zones, or here's all the commercial uses in this area. That figure ground diagram will show black this whole zone as commercial uses. So why are we saying that they all have to be conditional uses? This is clearly our commercial zone in Lyman. That's where they all are, So,
Honestly, this way,
Well,
your business
not
is renting out studios for artists,
correct. Craftsman.
right? So why are you placing your boats, plural, on that property?
Because we rent from ourselves. Mary Morning LLC is a business that owns it. We rent a property, we rent a unit. We actually rent 2 units there. And we pay Mary Morning LLC $1,800 a month for our shop. In that shop, we are currently restoring a wooden boat. Next, we're going to build a steel structure. After that, we're both going to do some large scale steel structures and sculpture. After that, we're going to do some large scale painting. After that, we might put a couch in there and let our kids watch TV. I don't know, but it's a shop. It's an artist space. It's where we work with our hands because at our homes in Portland and Biddeford, there's no space to work with our hands. So we're
That's the
here.
issue, no space where you are.
Was that?
The issue is that you don't have the space to do this where you.
That's why we're in Lyman. There's space.
That's why you're in Lyman.
There's space. And so then we're going to rent to similar people like us. There is the notion that was suggested to us by Patty was the previous code. Yeah, that that there is not artist space / maker spaces in your ordinance, so use office. So we used office, but these are not available to realtors. These are not available to lawyers. We don't want to take care of the property in that manner. We're using them. And I did refer back to our letter that was a year ago. And if you reread that letter, like what we're currently doing in those two spaces is what we said we were.
What do you
gonna
mean your letter? What letter? What are you talking about?
So have you guys we wrote a.
I mean, the thing that you got to look at is the notice of decision. That's what the record is.
Oh, sure. Okay, fine.
I mean,
Yeah.
and it says in there, I'm not trying to give you a hard time, but I'm just, I hear all the yapping, but I'm just telling you.
No more
that
yapping for me. Thank you for the
the-
extension.
The
Appreciate
professional
it.
offices is the permitted use, okay?
Great.
Permitted use is
In
professional
my office, I
offices.
choose to renovate a boat. There you
Well,
go.
that would probably be between you and the code enforcement officer.
That's fine.
And I
Brandon
think
will
that
hash
may
it
be
out.
why there is a suggestion from the code enforcement officer that the planning board do a site walk to see what's going on.
Sounds great. Let's do it.
And I mean, that's all I'm saying. If but I keep going back to the notice of decision because that's what the document approving this whole operation is
But we're
based on.
trying to get our use, and it was one of the uses that you guys said that you wanted for the school, not a cannabis factory, not a this or that.
Not
So we have
multi-units.
neighbors and People like
Yeah.
us who are bringing community
It's good.
building.
No, I
Can we
agree.
not
Work
forget?
With the Catholic Church next door to share park.
Yeah, no,
We're investing.
And what single family residence has a little league field on their front lawn?
Yeah.
I mean, can we just be serious about it?
We actually pay for the insurance to cover that.
No, I think you certainly look like you're being good neighbors, but there's some issues. But we also, I think I would point out, and I know there's thousands of people watching this here, but you're in a visible location.
Yeah.
Because you're on Route 35. Anybody driving down there can see what's going on, and there may be questions coming in. What are those guys doing? I thought because there was a lot of interest in this project, and especially in the previous project that ended up not getting approved.
Multifamily. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of interest in this because of the history of the school and the fact that it's a very visible location, et cetera, et cetera. It's
I
not
get
on
it.
some back road somewhere. So
But
the
we have
rules
people
of,
that swing in all the time when we're there. We're there all the
Yeah.
time.
I love it. We used to play baseball here. We went to school here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
anyway,
Most of
so,
the,
but read the document. In professional offices.
we're not running professional offices there.
Right.
We're running artist studios and maker spaces.
But I
Never
know
have I.
That's what you said you were gonna do is professional offices.
There you go. Well,
This is
I'm
what-
telling you what we are doing. We're doing artist spaces and professional offices, and your code enforcement office said that is the category we will use.
Okay, fine.
There you go. So,
That's what she said.
But just,
and actually, we're
Maybe-
not open for professional offices.
Yeah, okay.
it just may, for some, seem a little bit incongruous when you speak of flowers, soap, and dance studio, and repairing boats.
This is
Seems
this
a
is the
little bit-
blanket results of legislation trying to just cover that you can't cover everything.
Yeah.
And so
We could rewrite this
if
out.
you would want to rewrite the ordinance to allow for,
We're looking for.
I will give you the opportunity.
Committee.
There happens to be a meeting tomorrow night,
right,
which I'm
add
an
a
ex
category.
officio member. I emphasize the word for the public watching, ex officio, which means I don't have any votes,
Yeah.
of the ordinance review committee is starting to go through the ordinance, and they will eventually, or pretty soon, will get to the part on land uses, which is the
Great.
land use table, and hopefully they'll take that up.
Well, we have strong opinions. We're happy. I can't do it tomorrow night.
No,
I'll write books,
But they're just getting started.
Yeah,
So all
right.
I'm saying is there's an
we're happy to
opportunity
weigh in.
to.
Send it by
That's what we
email.
do for a living. We're happy to weigh in.
No problem.
I'm not saying you should do that because I'm not a member of that committee. I'm just sitting there.
But what I would say, and I'm sorry, I have forgotten your name. I don't know if we formally met, but
Yeah, Don.
Don, what I'm saying is I understand, read it, it says offices. But what I'm saying to you when you say that to me is I dealt with the town, we dealt with the town. We wrote a letter to the planning board, which is normal procedure.
Yeah.
We made it clear that we were taking a category that is not explicitly stated in your ordinance and fitting it into a different category.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say I will only do offices.
No, I
That's
get you.
never been my intent, and I've never said that to the town or to your board.
Well, I can remember the discussion on that.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying artists.
Mhm.
and
Yeah, no,
that type
I
of
agree.
That was our right
function.
concept.
I mean, we
I agree.
can pull up the YouTube, I'm sure.
I agree. No.
And
Go ahead.
one of the things most people forget is, because they'll see the list, they'll go, well, this is close to. Our ordinance is inclusive. Unless it is specifically stated that it is included.
Exclusive, right?
Yeah.
No, exclusive is if it's not
Yeah.
excluded, it's included.
Right.
Yeah.
We are, if it's not stated it can be, it can. So when you came in with office, artisanal offices, artist
Oh,
offices,
boy.
Yeah.
or office studios, professional studios.
Find me the word in there that says artists, and we'll reapply with artists. But
Again, at your leisure, you might want to read the definition of professional office on page 75.
we did with Brenda. We sat down with Brenda, and she's like, "This is the only thing I can see in our ordinance that would allow you to do what you're proposing to do." And furthermore, I spend my life in an office, and I have an artist studio in my office
Yeah,
in Portland.
okay.
I mean, how specific and exclusive do we want to be about how we define what people can do in their offices?
Well, artists are professionals.
Yeah.
I'm an artist. I feel professional.
Right, I think we
I
discussed
can't
that.
write, I can't draw my own.
Yeah.
Again, if you want to weigh in with suggestions to the ordinance review committee, they are meeting tomorrow night, right here at 6:30, but.
They meet twice a month.
Just send,
Yeah.
to, I think they got an email account.
Okay.
Your point of view, and I'm sure they'll take it accordingly.
Well, we appreciate the extension, and we look forward to hosting you for a site walk. Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
Now, we've got the mission statement and bylaws up next,
Oh,
but.
well, we got,
the-
wait a minute, they've been waiting patiently
That's
here.
exactly what I'm suggesting. That's, without objection. I don't hear any objection here.
No.
We just have the maxims.
This is absolutely fun.
Guard Sanders.
Okay. Now, this is with respect to a roadway on Cottage.
And can I just get your name?
Yeah, sure. My name's Pam Marie Maxon. And we're 36 Cottage Lane, and this is Shane Maxon.
Mhm.
We're gonna be super boring compared to what we've heard tonight.
Well, you never know.
I guess you never know. So,
right.
first off, I'm just gonna show you like where we're talking about, just
Mhm.
on the map here. So we own 36 Cottage Lane, that's where we are. We also own 14 Burnham Lane, which is right here.
Mm-hmm.
We bought the town road that was called Wannabe Lane.
Right.
In a separate parcel. And then we bought all this land here because we didn't want anybody to build on it. So we're kind of trying to make it, so it's funny, we're in front of the planning board, but we aren't planning on doing any building or
Yeah,
anything.
so what we did is on Cottage Lane, but we own 4 separate parts.
Right, that's all that surrounding area. So what, and I don't know, I'm sorry. We're not,
We don't
we're
know,
not super
this is
fancy.
the first time in here, so we're assuming you don't have much background on
Yeah.
it.
Well, we do have,
Planning board before?
No,
No.
thank goodness,
No,
you're lucky.
so this is 36 Cottage Lane, this is the lake here.
Mhm.
This is 14 Vernal Lane, which is like a big 2-acre parcel over here.
Mhm.
And then we bought Wannabe Lane, which was the
Holy
Old Town Road.
I'm sorry, the entirety of Wannabe?
We
Two-
bought all the
where
way
it
to
goes up to
Cottage
Cottage
Lane.
Okay.
Who'd you buy it from?
Bill Locke, and he had
Okay.
bought it from, I don't know, the town at some point.
Mhm.
So he owned this part.
Okay.
I bought from Cottage, or Shane and I bought from Cottage Lane all the way down
Okay.
to get to 14 Vernal Lane. And 14 Vernal Lane is where the old town beach was. So we in essence bought where the town beach was.
Okay.
Okay, so that's just a little history of where we're talking about, okay? But we had purchased, we owned that, and we wanted to make a path Because right now, we have to drive up Cottage Lane, go up to North Waterboro Road, go over to Vernon Lane, and to drive over to to see the 50 feet
Between the property.
between our houses. And so our neighbor didn't want us to go and trespass and walk across their property or anything, which is understandable. So we own behind it, so we didn't think we were doing anything wrong. And we had an older gentleman come with a Bobcat and put some,
So we brought some fill in
Oh.
without asking permission, I guess.
And we didn't
And now we're
know.
asking permission.
Oh.
Is
right,
really
and
where
so
we're at.
it was, you know, way from the lake, so we didn't
Right, it's outside
know we were
the
doing anything wrong.
setback, shoreline setback.
And so Patty called, because I believe a neighbor of some kind had called. We had already finished it because it was just a morning project with a
Now,
Bobcat.
when did you do
This
this?
is a while back.
This was
so-
January of 2021
Oh,
Correct.
that
gosh.
this happened.
Yeah.
So Patty called and I was like, I was actually in Florida. And she called and she was like, hey, you got a stop work order. And I said, this was just a little project. We're already done, you know? She wanted us to contact the DEP. She got us on with the DEP and her. DEP had no issues whatsoever with it. They didn't need anything. They said, no, you're fine. Patty told us that we had to come in front of, well, she was,
The first, she wanted a wetlands delineation.
A wetlands
It is wetland.
delineation.
That's, we were filling it to get back to where it's
It's-
fine. That's it.
which is the
Yeah.
public road or the
Yeah,
town road.
yeah.
So, we got with the DEP, they were fine. And then, she said we had to come in front of you guys to ask for,
Well, no, that's more recent, no.
Army Corps?
So a little, yeah, so
Oh, okay.
going back a little bit further. So, it kind of turned on, turned off, and then obviously everything took a while getting.
Yeah.
she
well, we
first
didn't
asked-
take a while.
No. but
We
she-
got on
she
everything
first
within like
asked
a month.
for the wetlands delineation, which, you know, getting someone out there, that was a little bit of a delay. And then, once we determined that there was wetlands there, that's when the Corps of Engineers came in, and so we processed the application with them.
And that was
Um,
in, March of 2020. Two.
No, it wasn't. That was actually 22.
No, let me see here.
It's going back a little ways. We did it fairly quickly.
Yeah,
But they kinda-
320 of 22.
No, that's the last correspondence.
Oh, okay.
It's actually about a year earlier than that.
December, January.
We sent it to the Corps of Engineers.
Yeah.
And they kind of, you know, they sat on it for a little while and then we followed back up and they ultimately said, well, that they'd want to do a site visit. And then that was kind of the last correspondence. And then it sat for a little while. When Patty left and Brenda came on board, she followed up. Well, actually, no, I take that back. The March of 22 last year was Patty following up. And that's when the Corps of Engineers, again, almost a whole year later, said, oh yeah, we haven't forgot about it. We still want to do a site visit. But, and then it just kind of, any correspondence with the Corps of Engineers, I just think they didn't make it present.
We were
in that
following
sense.
up with them and they weren't,
Yeah,
they weren't
they,
doing
like,
it.
it wasn't a significant enough issue, I guess, for them to put at the top.
Right.
So they have.
So everything's just kind of been said, and then Brendan.
But we
came to
did
follow
do an Army Corps of Engineers permit.
Right.
They wanted us to do that. We did that right away.
Yeah.
So we kind of did
I mean,
everything
the-
and now it's just that we're trying to get the
The very
Plan.
last correspondence for us was really with Patty until Brenda came out and suggested that we come in here and try and just
Get a
put it to
permit.
bed,
yeah.
with a I guess after the fact permit. The last correspondence really was, you know, we could do the permit now or wait, you know, with Patty. So we're in
No,
here, I
not
guess,
Patty,
hoping.
Brenda.
Well, yeah, just now. So we're just hoping to really get behind us and do whatever we have to do to get the after the fact permit. With no intent of us doing anything else.
We were already
unless you
done.
require
It wasn't
in
a
essence,
big
you know.
project or
Yeah.
anything. We were just trying to make a path so we could walk across our own land.
Did everyone get the opportunity to go over the chain of emails that
Yeah, there's a lot of.
Brenda?
Yeah.
provided?
And you'll see, we
Kind of
were
consider-
responsive, like we were responding in like a day. So it's crazy that this has been 2 years. I know it's nobody's fault,
see
but
If,
I didn't see those. Did you see those?
Yes.
Brenda
district-
passed those
Oh,
out.
are they in the
just
file?
Just
around.
gave it to us last.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, God. help me.
And I believe in that packet probably is the Army Corps of Engineers, all the permits and everything we did with them.
No, not
Oh,
that.
Just the
okay.
application.
Just an
So there is
application.
an
Okay, we gave-
application in it.
Yeah, because we gave that to her.
Reference to it.
That's the second thing, piece of information I haven't received today.
Oh, here, wait a minute, I'm sorry. Oops.
And
Yeah,
it kind of
just
came
so
up.
that-
And then,
It's in,
Hand them out
If I
last
may,
week.
can I?
it's in the pile. I'm sorry. Was it last meeting? Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
because the
Now
last
I'm-
meeting
now
she
I-
had just been with us.
And there
Yeah.
was some concern from a neighbor.
Yeah, so that's why it came back up, yeah.
Well, it's, yeah, I mean, there's not, she came out and looked at it. She was like, no, these culverts are working fine.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember. what
Right,
was
right,
said. She
yeah.
would know, but.
No.
There was a call about that she went out to look at flooding.
Yeah, so
Just that's in between the
Okay.
two properties.
Okay, we got the whole pile.
the
here.
water is flowing the way it always has.
You're right. I'm sorry.
Kind of wet. this year.
Have there been any further
No.
concerns by this neighbor or anyone else about the,
I think it was just that one neighbor that were aware of it.
Yeah,
I
no,
think
but-
it was recent too.
Yeah, because I mean, well, we've had historic water too, but it is running, right? I mean, Brenda came out and looked and
Oh,
said,
okay.
yeah, this is running properly. So it actually kind of split where the two,
So, yeah, so I mean, the way it
Culverts
is there,
so
the
it's in the
lots
middle.
were filled up in the first place when it was built, and the access road is all built up. So the water always runs down, like it comes off the hill, and runs toward the lake between the lots.
yeah,
And
I'm familiar
there's,
with
you know,
some
culverts
of
on either side, and and we didn't alter that.
we didn't even touch anything near those.
So,
If I may, after reading through all of this, sort of the bottom line for me was, has after the fact approval been granted by the Army Corps and DEP? Has that been?
So DEP said they didn't have to do anything.
Right, so
They already,
kinda
they
jumped
said,
out
no.
Right in the beginning.
Right from the beginning, that was-
Documentation to that effect?
Yeah,
Um,
Patty
there might
it would have
be
been right
emails
on
or
with
there might
Patty.
be Correspondence on that.
It was
We had that.
Lucian.
That's one box checked.
Yeah, do you want me to look at my
We'll
email?
get that.
Yeah, okay, because
We'll have to follow up.
so it was a gentleman by the name of Lucian that was dealing with Patty.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know if that was email or if it was direct.
If it's some communication with DEP saying they have no problem with it, I think that's
I
one
don't know if they came out. or not.
No, I have no idea.
agency, no further concern. But again, nothing more from the Army Corps. They never
They never
appeared.
did come out.
I think they looked at it, we did the permit, and they were probably like, check that box.
did they
No,
give you a
they-
permit?
No, they did not. They said they wanted to come out for a site survey, and then.
They never
They
did.
said that, and then when we followed back up, they said it again, but they never came back out again. I guess.
Have you followed up with them to see?
Yes.
Not
Yes,
in the last couple weeks.
not in the last couple
Not
weeks, but
recently.
we've followed up. I mean, we sent them the permit right away.
Yeah,
We sent them everything they need, like, we didn't procrastinate, we
So
did
there
all
hasn't
of
been
it.
correspondence with them really since last summer.
Right.
When they said they.
I mean, there's only so many times you can ask the same people to do the same thing.
Mhm.
If they're not doing it, what do you do? I mean, we were done already. It wasn't like we were
Mhm.
doing anything.
Bill, anything?
I was gonna say, I think Lucian retired.
He was young.
Yeah, no, he's young.
Well, I mean, the-
I mean, he might
I could be
laugh,
wrong, but
No, because he's a
there was a
young
lot of
person.
changes there, I know that. Yeah.
He's very young for retirement if he did. Let me see.
Works for the state.
The package that you sent or that Julie made was in the pile and I didn't see it until now, but anyway, whatever. Patty there said in January 18th of 2022 that just as a reminder, you will need to apply to the town of Lyme for this amount of fill. Also, earth moving and fill over 50 cubic yards requires a permit from the planning board. Blah,
Yep,
blah,
and
blah,
that's
blah,
why
blah.
we're here.
So, yeah, so
But we
at that time, it was either you can apply for the permits concurrent, as in, we're still waiting to hear back from from the Corps of Engineers. Do we apply with the town now, or do we wait to hear what the Corps of Engineers say? And we ultimately, at that time, it was, we're still waiting to hear back from the Corps of Engineers, and then we can work with the town once we hear from them, which,
So have you applied, my question is, have you applied for a permit?
not with the town, no, just with the Corps of Engineers.
So
We
why
would
don't
love to do that tonight. I mean, but we just got told to come, so we
Oh.
were just doing
Yes,
this
we honestly didn't know that until Brenda came out, we just like, well, with her.
last
And she
week.
kind of decided, well, maybe this
Just
is
come
something
here.
we should take to the plan.
Yeah.
Right, so I mean,
It's how it came out.
we got the paperwork. We'll do it in about 10 minutes and you'll have it.
Well, or we'll bring it back.
So,
I
yeah,
mean,
it was
That's
Lucian.
kind of what we hope to do, you know.
Oh,
It was Lucian Langlois and then Colin from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. I don't know if that
Colin Green.
Lucian is the same one.
I-
Langlois. Oh,
Okay.
the power of the cell phone.
Where
So,
is-
yeah, if you want us to do a permit, we can do one right now.
I think we have to
Well,
do a permit.
Okay,
Yeah, that,
That's required.
yeah,
okay,
right.
sorry. This is,
So-
we're not like the other people, we
E-
don't.
I'm sorry to suggest even a further delay here, but maybe once Brenda is back at the office, getting back to her, with her in terms of filling out the formal request for a permit.
Right.
And my feeling is that if we were to take that back up, to approve it, I think we would have to make it contingent upon Army Corps finally getting back into the sidewalk and giving approval. Our approval, I think, would be contingent upon the Army Corps saying, okay.
Right.
Okay,
And that's kind of the impression I got that we would have to do.
Okay.
Where we kind of, we waited on doing it with the town to hear back from that, and then really they just didn't make it pressing for us. And I do know Brenda did say when we walked with her, that she was gonna reach out to Corps of Engineers to see if they had any requirements, so, because it honestly sat for so long. So I'm hoping that when she does come back around, that maybe she has.
Yeah, your backfilling, did that follow the old line of Wannabe Road, or is that something? that
No, it
you
was to get, it was
To get
basically
to
go
there.
back to Wannabe. It was from where like the lots ended to get back to Wannabe.
Could you
yeah,
show-
sure. So it's like, it's not even big enough for a car to drive through. I
Well,
mean,
it's a car.
Well, all right,
It's a vehicle.
my Suburban would go through it, let's just say that. So it's like.
I got a
right here
smaller car.
To get to Wannabe, because I don't know what this fill area is, I don't know what that is, but.
Oh, that might have been my
That's not-
diagram way back in the day.
Oh, yeah, maybe that's, I mean, I guess maybe this is where, is that where we filled?
That's approximate, but yes,
Oh, okay.
yes, that is it. So I mean, the structure, this is the cottage lane, but this is all,
Issues.
in essence, for all the lots, the fill goes back to somewhere around here. On the other side of cottage lane, the structures are on this side, and then we fill to get out
To
to
Wannabe Lane.
this, which is to act as our property here and the property back here.
Like this, we didn't touch, because this is, it's
Well,
already
that's
like
dry.
road.
So one
So
of the
this is an
main-
existing, so you
Well,
didn't.
it's, no, but it's, I mean, it's an old, it was existing one time. It's not,
Right.
it's no longer, but it's dry.
You're not bushwhacking through 300 feet to get to
No, we
someplace?
just walked.
No, like, I mean, in all honesty, it was be able to get mowers over back and forth, and maybe a golf cart or something like that. You know.
So the approach should be, again, to get together with Brenda when she's available.
Yeah.
Formally fill out the application.
Right.
Again, we would entertain it with the understanding that Army Corps has to weigh in
Okay.
this at some point. And any approval that we would give would be contingent upon Army Corps.
Yep, so if they give us a heads up, then we're
It
good,
would
and we
be,
just,
the documentation that you have from DEP, if we had that as well, that's great. I think ideally, if the Army Corps suddenly would appear, say everything's A-OK, then we give our after the fact approval. I think that'd be the smoothest way to go. But in the event that the Army Corps continues to not be responsive enough, our approval would be contingent upon their action plans.
Requirements or whatever.
So it should, eventually we would generate a notice of decision, which would spell all this stuff out. That would get recorded in the York County Registry of Deeds, blah, blah, blah. You'd be all set. You'd have a legal document to go from, and you're done.
So
Which is-
really first step for me then is to, in fact, fill that paperwork out.
Right.
With Brenda, right? And then it would be approved pending, hinged upon.
Army Corps.
Presumably, presumably.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, everyone,
We
okay
need-
with
And
that?
then, so then I would assume that,
Would we need a public hearing?
do we have to come back in once the paperwork's submitted?
Yeah.
It's my
More
question.
likely, yes.
More likely
Just,
than not, we'll need a
Probably have to go
sidewalk.
through, well, we got to go through the process, right? Which should require a public hearing.
Public hearing,
Because
sidewalk.
maybe your neighbors have some issue with this, and maybe not, hopefully not, and may or may not require a sidewalk. The rules say we may require a sidewalk,
Yeah, okay.
so,
So
but
once
just
the
follow,
paperwork's in, we may
follow
need
the
to submit, in
process,
essence,
and then you'll end up
yeah.
hopefully with a statement that's a legal document that covers you, and you're gonna put it with your deeds and everything, and you're all set. But I'm sorry it takes so long, but it does take a certain amount of time.
I mean,
And
we
it's
don't,
a public process, so you have to notify
So it's-
people
You don't have to take it all out.
to give
well,
them the
yeah,
time.
nothing really.
Okay.
All right,
You good? All right, thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
All right,
Okay.
good luck. Hopefully we'll
thanks.
get everything in here soon.
And for all those other ones, we can just do a simple email like you did, and you just read it, and
Talk to Brenda. Yeah, you are. You're gonna have to come back.
Okay, we have to come back.
Yeah, we have to-
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Applicant has to
Sorry
be
about
present.
that, but
Okay,
that's the way it is.
Trying to do the easy button.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, see you later.
If there's no objection, could we jump down to minutes?
Yeah,
No
let's do
objection.
minutes. 2 minutes.
Did everyone get the opportunity to read through the
Yes.
August 2nd minutes? Any suggestions of any changes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve as written.
I make a motion to approve the August 2nd, 2023 planning board minutes as written.
Do I have a second?
Oh, second.
No discussion. Call for a vote. All those in favor?
Right.
Okay. I'll pass this along.
Okay.
Let me see. Still on the agenda is the mission statement, bylaws, and also the MX 207 update.
We voted the mission statement in last time.
I believe we did. Is that correct? Yeah.
I printed out, I typed up that new paragraph one,
Mhm.
changed the date at the bottom, printed it out pretty for you guys.
Okay, can I make a suggestion
Please.
that we get either Rod or Cecile to sign that and you send it to the select board for their information?
Mhm.
I actually had made up a little transmittal letter, but that's okay. I can give it to you. But do you want to talk about those other ones or not?
The bylaws?
Yeah.
What's the sense of folks here? You walk through that?
Let me mention one thing.
Go ahead.
Okay, first of all, what I would like to get is just, I don't need any affirmation about how brilliant they are. That's okay. But if there's some comments you want to make, then now would be the time to make it. But also, let me point out that the recommended change to the remote participation policy, which is not exactly like the select boards for specific reasons. We should, in my opinion, hold a public hearing on that because it says in there, blah, 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 and public hearing. We did not hold a public hearing when we approved that the last time. On our remote participation policy, I pretty darn sure is word for word for what the select board did. And I don't know if they did a public hearing or not. It's not my business. But ours is what I'm recommending is a little different because I'm trying to put in there the ability to have remote participation by applicants in particular. And we had that one case where the person was up in northern Maine and wanted to apply for something here. And we could have done that. I don't think we did.
We did have
Did we do
one
that?
remote log on
Did we have one?
application. Because I remember,
I think it was-
Was that Hidden Spa?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mr. Brown.
But
Yeah,
that's not covered in our current remote participation policy.
right.
to be
So-
honest, a remote participation was kind of thrust upon us due to a national pandemic, and it was like,
But anyhow.
executive order, you guys can do it.
I'm not pushing, I'm just saying that I think if, whether we modify it or don't modify it, I think once we agree in the bylaws and we have the remote participation as part of that, then my other suggestion would be, since there's a lot of changes to these bylaws or recommended changes, if we put those through, I think we ought to have a public hearing on them. No, I know it's not a requirement anywhere in the world to have one, but it's basically saying to people, this is if the planning board approves a brilliant write-up on timing and stuff, this is what we're saying we're going to do. And I could see where some people could say, well, you guys, all you're doing is stretching this stuff out. And that sure as heck isn't my intention. I like to see stuff come in,
Right.
get reviewed,
Mhm.
appropriately approved, and get out the door. Because, when the last 3 or 4 months, you forget what the heck you're talking about
Right.
half the time. But any case, all I'm saying is that please consider I think we should definitely have one on remote participation, and maybe we want to include the rest of the changes to the bylaws if you approve them, because they're sort of significant this time. They're more than we normally touched up.
Bill?
2 cents.
While we're talking about public hearings, been looking at our process that we work with. And one of the things that comes up in my mind is we're holding the public hearings after we do the review, the investigation, et cetera, for public input at the end of the process instead of at the beginning of the process. And we really should be getting that public input at the beginning when the scope of the application or whatever is presented. We should have a public hearing to get the public input so that we can use that as part of the review process before we implement anything. I mean, we may need to have one at the end also to say this is what we plan to do, but I think we're missing it by not having one at the beginning.
Well, you're going to end up doubling the number of public hearings because, I'm not saying, I'm not necessarily
You
disagreeing
wouldn't
with
have to
you.
call it a public hearing. I think what you can do is, because I thought a lot about this.
Yeah.
Is to say, okay, we're gonna have an application for XYZ, and then we would put it on our website, et cetera, and say, this is gonna be presented. If you would like to be there, we would like your input so that we have all the information to work with to move forward. I just think we're missing that one step that's kind of important.
But we put that on the, I mean, in theory, we're supposed to be putting the agenda on the town website now. I'm not saying,
Yeah.
maybe we're not doing 100% perfectly, but we're supposed to be notifying people that we're going to cover Hissong, blah, 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 or Hidden Spa or something else, or, Cousin School or something, and people have the opportunity to come and talk. And we could make it even part of the remote participation if people wanted to do that. But you either call it a meeting, it's a meeting right now. You could call it a public hearing, but we're definitely going to have a public hearing, in my opinion, after the application or at the I think what is it? When the application is complete, we do the site walk and then we do the public hearing
Right.
to get
Has
the
to be
input at that
complete.
time.
But that's when we get the input from the public, which we should have had before we did the rest of the work.
Now, we do post the agenda.
Yeah.
Do we post the material that applicants submit at that same time?
We should.
I don't know.
We
I don't know. What do we,
No, I don't think,
We-
if we don't, we post the sidewalk, post it on the website.
Mhm.
I think the only stuff that gets posted is if we call for a public hearing. Anything else
Mhm.
isn't posted.
Right. And it shouldn't be because it changes.
Well, I
If they're
noticed,
coming
I
before
know
the
that we
board.
did, I don't know which one of the South Towers and other, I know we had been putting that material on the website, the whole package, because we
It's
asked for
costly to
electronic
produce.
copy of the thing so we can put it on the website. And I know in the past I had been leaving a copy here at the desk for people to sign out and read. Nobody ever did. We did that for a few of the ones. We should be consistent on
Yeah.
that.
I would think that at the very least, along with the putting on the website the agenda, maybe at least the original application form.
yeah.
So
I
at
think it's
least a little bit of a heads up out there to be interested as to what is coming up, and provides the opportunity, as you're suggesting, Bill, that we get some input in advance. And
I saw that tonight, his song, the gentleman bringing up the
He
noise
said he didn't have-
complaints. Would have been nice if he mentioned that before we had like the sidewalk, that we could
Yeah.
have checked things, if there's posted times for the operations at the site,
Right.
things like that, or ask them
Right.
on site.
Mhm. Exactly.
I just brought it for discussion, but I thought it was,
Yeah, good.
We don't have on our agenda, we never have a place, a formal placeholder for people for public input. In fact, we discourage it during planning board meetings. When
It's not
people are in the
allowed.
audience, I think we have
Well, it
not
says,
allowed people to
No,
say
it's
something,
at the
which I
chair's
think
discretion.
is
Yeah.
not right. I think if they see it on the agenda and they come in early
nobody cares.
and they come to the meeting and they raise their hand,
Actually, we
input,
as a
I think.
board run kind of loose as far as parliamentary procedure, Robert's Rules of Order. Technically, unless it's a public meeting, the public can't speak. So we actually allow a lot of input
Mhm.
from the public, which
Mhm.
I don't think is necessarily a bad thing.
Agreed.
And occasionally, very rarely, it has had to been shut down when it's gotten out of hand.
Mm.
But I welcome public input.
But when the people come forward to bring their application to us and explain it, if that information was posted on our website, that this was going to be
Mhm.
presented,
Mhm.
and I'm just going to use for an example, instead of a single-family residence, they want to put up a 50-unit retirement home.
Mhm.
Let the people come in and present
Yeah.
the information, you know?
Would it be, Julie, much of a technical chore to post the application material that we get originally?
A lot of times
Scan it.
the applications are handwritten, not delivered electronically. We
Yeah.
encourage it.
Mhm.
It doesn't always have to. We also have, like tonight, people coming in, there is no application.
Mhm.
So we can't post anything regarding it.
Okay.
Once the application is submitted,
Mhm.
it's just a matter of having it be either submitted electronically or scanned in.
Scanned.
scanned.
Which, if it's a huge thing, then it's very time consuming. But other than that, I just email it to Lindsay and she puts it on the website.
But the application form,
Mhm.
and I know they've got the ability to do that here, because they can create PDF documents, fillable documents. Now it's no longer handwritten,
Mm.
Mhm.
okay? It can be emailed, it's easy to read. You can put attachments to it, and then you would have it in a digital format, usable very easily. Just a suggestion.
Yep.
Just
It
a
would be
suggestion.
so much more convenient to have them submitted.
Mm.
They can handwrite them if they want, but electronically
Yeah.
it would be encouraged.
Because right now, on the planning board, there is applications submitted to the planning board, which is Hidden Spot, Brookview Estates Final, Brookview Estates Final Subdivision Plans, Hisson Ready Mix. Then there is a downloadable document, planning board site review application, general and commercial uses, and subdivision application. So it's there.
You're right, it's there.
So,
It's a
But for
document
his
that's not
song,
fillable, right?
what are they coming in for? Are we telling the public what they're applying for?
Mhm.
What we're gonna be looking at? I mean,
Yeah,
that-
well, wait,
that's
not
gonna
so
be-
fast. The agenda here, which I think, was this on the website?
The agenda gets posted, it should have been posted yesterday.
It wasn't- it
It
wasn't.
says, now maybe it
today.
should be posted sooner if possible, but it does say, it says there, that's what it says about his song.
Mhm.
So,
This week's
Yeah.
didn't get posted.
Yeah,
I did send it.
did you? Yeah.
Let me go
It wasn't
back.
Who does the formal posting?
Lindsay does all the posting.
it goes to
Usually,
the,
I email them to you on Friday.
right,
Yep,
You all look over them in minutes,
yeah,
right.
index.
and then I send them on, I usually send them to Lindsay on Monday.
Mhm.
This being a crazy week with certain person who isn't feeling well, things are a little stressful.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I forgot about it and sent it to her yesterday. But also, I don't work here in the mornings. I come
Yeah,
in
that's
closer to noon, so I'm looking at later in the day instead of earlier in the day to get things done. And it might have gone to her and she just didn't have time. She missed it yesterday.
Well, all my goal is I think that we're getting input at a late stage when it should be earlier, and that's all.
Yeah, if there's a way to do that, we should try to get this information out earlier, I think.
Well, again, should we entertain a motion to, when the agenda is posted, post also at that time whatever we have be it electronic or handwritten and scanned, a description of the, what we're receiving in terms of the description of the project.
Well, what happens if, I think the initial application should be posted and downloaded, because sometimes what I see the flaw is, HISON started several months ago. That document is already downloaded. So if you go to the agenda and say HISON's on, we're not gonna download the application all over again. When the application or the business is initially brought to us, it's posted under applications submitted to the board.
Okay.
And it stays there until we sign off on it, approve, disapprove, notice of decision. Like I said, I'm seeing 3 of them, actually 2, application and plan, that is currently posted. And HISON, we approved it, should be off. The application for Barker Pond rental should be on there. Mary Morning hasn't done anything official yet, and Cottage hasn't done anything official yet.
Should we
but
have separate headings like?
The initial
application
application.
submitted?
Yeah, initial application still in progress.
That sounds very good.
Yep.
Not a.
Right.
And that
But
gives,
a
but when it
brand,
first
a
comes
brand
up,
when it first comes
so
up.
that people know that we're gonna have a meeting on it with an explanation of what the application is about and to get public input.
Mhm.
I just think it's an important time instead of after the fact.
Agreed. So if we're good with that, should we make it a formal motion to do so?
I
Or
think
just internal
I have no
policy?
problem if we just discuss it
operational
again.
procedure, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
give it a couple
It's a-
weeks to think about it and come up with.
And I think
It's a
we ought to
demonstration.
also let Julie work it too,
Right.
because she's the one who's gonna be doing the work. We're not gonna be doing it,
How
right?
visible?
But again, I think that would streamline things for the codes office.
Yes. If we could,
If they had an enterable PDF form that they could fill in,
Mhm.
it's easy to read, there's no misunderstanding what somebody wrote. We get a better application, which is gonna be quicker for them to deal with, and the process and everything else.
Also, since we don't have access to any of the servers here, it gives us a copy in advance too before the meeting.
That's true.
Right.
To review it. So instead of
One
then
one of my
attachments
goals when
to.
I was on the board of selectmen was that when the agenda item was listed, you would be able to click on the agenda item and see all the
I see the
documentation that went with
documentation.
it.
Yeah, that would be good, yeah.
Never got that.
No, it's not. It's
time
not
of vote,
there
ladies,
yet.
it's 8:30.
But
It's
the average
posted
person downloading it.
Yeah,
in advance.
but again, click on that link,
Mm.
here's your documentation, click on each one, look at them.
Right. And then that should be in an area of history that we can go back on.
Yes.
Mhm.
There was, the building
Click on it
permit,
and see
you used to
historical
be able to fill it out online.
Yeah.
Except after Patty left, nobody knew where it went, once it was submitted. Brenda came along, people called weeks or months later and said, hey, I submitted a permit, did you ever get it? And we don't know where they ever went. Nobody said if they went to a specific email, if they were sent to, they went to outer space and we never saw them.
Oh, wow.
So
That's not good.
that was removed. That was just an issue that we had found
Hmm.
after being here for months, that
Missing
Okay.
documents.
missing documents, so, editable PDFs are fine as long as we know.
Where they are.
Right.
Getting back to, Don, your discussion of, suggestion of a public hearing for the bylaws and the remote policy. I gotta look at it this way, that these are like the internal operational procedures that we use. And I don't know if going to a public hearing before we say, yes, this is what we intend to do, is all that necessary. Particularly with the remote policy, all we're doing is adjusting that to coincide with reality. We already had a situation where an applicant was physically remote, hooked up by way of the internet, and we carried on. So again, I think public hearing would just kind of delay things unnecessarily.
Maybe.
I think we've got a pretty good handle as to what our approach is. And what you've done is just, yeoman's work with respect to finding uniformity in terms of the timeframes that we should operate under as expeditiously as possible, but at the same time in keeping with state law.
Okay. The only thing I would point out is that I think that I don't mean to misquote here, but
Mhm.
I believe the town manager mentioned to me that when I asked for a copy, and I asked for a copy of the select board's remote, I think she reminded me that there's supposed to be a public hearing of that. So I looked, when the board adopts that. That's all I was pointing out. So that
There was a public hearing when the
The-
selectmen.
for the select board, but
Yes.
the planning board didn't have one at the time. So we already adopted a remote participation policy. My suggestion is that maybe in a future time, well, first of all, if you want to make some change to this, that's fine with me. But once we approve this, then my only suggestion was that we might want to, when we're having another public hearing, add on the subject of discussing the remote participation policy, pointing out to people that it's open for applicants, assuming we want to do that, open for applicants to apply to remotely. And I think there's some weasel words, and you don't have to do it, but if they do it, then it's covered, because right now it's not covered in there that I could see.
Yeah.
That's the reason I added it.
What you're suggesting is what the selectmen have verbatim?
No, I've got some.
Okay.
No.
Okay, if it was, then the public hearing already has been held for that language. Okay.
Yeah, it's a little different. It's a little different. Okay, now I know it's getting late, and that's the problem. This happens every time, but what I sent out this last time, and I think what you have printed in there is the green copy of the changes from the last time. And okay, real quickly, I added the date. I changed the date to August. Okay, and then I went through, and Joe had done and I think Cecile and other people had added, and everyone's had some comments, but on page 1 there, I added in the green, add title 38, and then I changed at the bottom there to 10, section 10. And then the next green part was not until
Opening remarks.
we got to the, what I did is under attachment 1, I modified that. And I probably didn't
You
show
actually got to go back to page 4 and you put a space next to
a space.
the
Okay, you had the comment on the space. I covered that, right? Yeah, I
Yep.
did. Okay, you're right.
It's in green.
Okay, I picked that up. Yeah, you had the comment on the space. Thank you for your help. But I changed the planning board opening remarks in the attachment to more mirror what we're actually saying now. And that's not a big deal. But I wanted to make it more up to date. And
One of the things I was trying to find is the comment that it is being, one of the things we're not seeing it is live broadcast as well as recorded to YouTube. Meaning being recorded to YouTube, that's one of the things, I think we should state this being live broadcast.
Okay.
Because it could be Zoom instead of YouTube.
Because there are people right now, hopefully, watching.
So
they don't have anything else to do. I pity them. But
this meeting is being broadcast live and is being recorded for YouTube.
Yes.
wait a second, not so fast.
Oh, no.
This meeting is recorded for YouTube. Wait a minute. YouTube, we're just putting it on YouTube, right?
Yeah, those on YouTube.
So,
We record it and it gets stored at YouTube.
yeah, so why do we have to say it's being recorded live? I mean,
Is it broadcast
if
live?
you don't record it dead if it's on YouTube, right?
It's live streaming on YouTube and also being recorded.
Okay.
Okay, wait a second.
So why not say that? You just say, all you have to do is say it's being live streamed. Period.
Right, because we don't have a separate recording anymore, right? We're
And
not
3
doing that.
participants are watching it right now live.
I pity them.
And then I watch it repeatedly.
Okay. All right. Under attachment 1, it says this meeting is being live streamed and recorded for YouTube? Is that
Sounds
what
good.
we want to say?
Just say live stream to YouTube.
You're saying live
Live
streamed,
stream to YouTube. It's got to be recorded if you
live
live stream.
streamed.
I'm kind of like to keep that in there because again, for technologically Neanderthal like myself, you know, to know that, to be told, it's also recorded out there somewhere, Joe.
Live streamed and recorded for YouTube.
Gifts, okay, live streamed and recorded to YouTube, last chance.
So,
Is that okay?
dumb question. If we do remote participation, we use Zoom.
Right.
Is that still being recorded to YouTube?
Yes,
Yeah, would be.
yeah, it does.
Yes, the
Okay.
Zoom is not recorded and saved, only the YouTube is. But that's why we have the little speaker box on the table there, is so that they can be heard
Yep.
on
Okay,
YouTube.
no, that's what I needed to know.
Yeah.
Okay, so any other changes to attachment 1? How about attachment 2, the green part there?
Yeah.
All I did there was took out this executive session because we don't do that in public hearings.
That's right.
Yeah, and then add, live stream and recorded to YouTube.
Yeah, because it's the same verbiage, right, for that?
Yep.
All right, got it. Live streamed. And recorded to YouTube. Okay, attachment 3 is where there's quite a bit of changes there. And, what the hell did I do here? Oh, I know what I did.
Mhm.
Okay. I made it more chronological in order. In other words, part 2, where it says public hearings on site plan review and preliminary subdivision applications.
Mhm.
I changed it around so that it would be the first thing you would do would be notify. And again, this is why, I don't know why we do this, but this is what it requires. 20 days in advance. Okay, we're
Mhm.
putting the 20 days in advance. That's the one that takes the most time. Then 2 weeks in advance on the town website, blah, 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 and including library. Remember that, I've been telling you guys that.
Mhm.
And then publishing notice once in a newspaper 14 days in advance. I took out, made newspaper read a newspaper of general circulation, took out the wording about the Portland Press Herald
Right.
because there was some comments on that.
Right.
So I changed that part on site plan review and subdivision application. And basically, public hearings and contract zoning and site plan review, that is almost the same. The first part's the same. And where it changes is the requirements changes, the public notice, published notice twice in a
Mhm.
newspaper, because that's a requirement
Right.
in the law. And first notice at least 14 days in advance, second notice at least 7 days in advance.
Yeah.
And I also defined, because somebody made the comment, that days means calendar days, not working days.
Yep, that's
Bill?
good, clear
Yeah. That's what-
clarification.
It's good to, yeah, it's good to
No.
be clear.
So I
Business
think that
days
was a good
versus
comment. So
calendar, yeah.
anyhow, item 4, all I changed there was newspaper. I just
Right.
made that newspaper. And then, and item 5, I just added some words there to say why. In other words, site walk 10 days to allow publishing on notice, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Public hearing 4 weeks to allow required notification of CEO, SB and ZBA. And that's one thing that is, I know not to belabor it, but the ordinance review committee is going through this stuff too. I don't know why we have to notify the CEO, the select board, and the ZBA 4 weeks in advance of a public hearing. However, that's in the ordinance. So that drives the thing. Is it 4 weeks or 20 days? I thought it was 20 days. Whatever. Don't let me say too much here. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to change this again unless we have to. And then I changed a little bit in the definitions there at the bottom. I added notes and changed 2 definitions. So that's what I did on attachment 3.
Mhm.
Attachment 4 is no changes, and I have fixed up a page that has that, but it's that table of consanguinity, which I know you all love to read about.
Love it.
And then on attachment 5, which is a remote participation policy, I did change that because, and I did highlight that note, public notice and hearing at the top there, but that's yellow. I added applicants before the planning board may be allowed to participate via remote methods at the discretion of the planning board chair or designee. So I made it possible, or I guess it would be possible anyway if it wasn't specifically prohibited, but I raised that point. And then I added, now this is up for your discussion, the public will be provided a meaningful opportunity to attend via remote methods when any planning board member or applicant participates via remote methods. So if they participate, either planning board member or an applicant participates remotely, the public can have a meaningful opportunity. If they don't, then the public doesn't. That's the way.
How was the public?
But what Kelly mentioned earlier, the public doesn't normally have input. Would it be better to say if some kind of a clause, if public participation is being allowed? Because I don't think you want to make it an overall, you can do this.
Yeah.
Because the public doesn't participate in some of the discussion, only at certain times. If it's to weigh in on a particular application for a variance or whatever, and you allow the public, then it would, but it wouldn't be another time.
Now, the only thing I would say, keep the weasel words there because, you're not trying to keep people from participating, but normally, this is talking, remember, by remote methods. Normally, we don't have that set up. We don't have a remote method set up for a planning board meeting. So all I was putting in here was that we would allow that if one of us or an applicant participates via remote methods. And it just is a meaningful opportunity that gives the chair the opportunity to decide what that is.
So if I decide I want to participate in our meeting by Zoom because I have a cold and I don't want to come in and get everybody sick.
Yeah.
That means the public can now have access by Zoom also to participate?
How do
Well, if
we
you read the
broadcast?
No, wait.
the next sentence though.
Well, wait a second. It says meaningful opportunity. That means the chair runs the meeting. If there's if normally, I think the planning board does not have to allow it, but the chair most times allows participation or comments. If somebody asks a question about something, say, and we have our thousands of people here normally every meeting, and nobody asks anything about anything. But if somebody does come and ask a question, I think we try to answer that question for them and allow them to participate. But that's not the, I can't say that's the purpose. It just isn't a requirement. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you can.
So why put it in?
Well, the reason I put it in was because I figured that we had done that once. We did that once.
But when you're making it as a clause attached to a board member participating remotely, gives the public access.
That Zoom link be posted to the town website, how would that?
Yeah, they
Right,
gotta log.
that's a lot of work and they
How
need
are
to
we
be.
going to let the public know that Bill has a cold and doesn't want to transmit it, and we get the notification he tries his best, at 5:45, he notifies us.
It isn't the point, the first portion of that sentence. The public will be provided a meaningful opportunity to attend via remote methods, period. Aren't we kind of doing that right now with?
But we're letting them watch, but not necessarily
Well, it says
participate.
attend. It doesn't say participate.
Oh, that's a point.
Okay.
Ooh, lawyer.
So,
Unless it's a public hearing.
Okay.
now that's another issue now. If we want to say that when we're conducting a public hearing and someone wants to attend and participate verbally, do we allow that to happen via Zoom? Which I think we already implied that we can.
Yeah, they'd have to notify, I cannot make this public hearing, however, I have issues I wish to present to the board.
Which I think could be addressed in writing. in advance so we can digest it.
But there's the rebuttal to the statements that are presented.
Mhm.
One of the members of the public has an issue with an application.
Mhm.
Yeah, he can present it in writing, but say the response doesn't satisfy.
Mhm.
So that, what's he gonna do?
Yeah.
Wait and require another public hearing?
Understood.
This way, if it's remote participation, they can say, but did you think about X, Y, Z?
Right.
So,
I'm sorry.
Thinking about X, Y, Z. Lindsay sets up the Zoom sessions. I don't do that.
Oh.
There are Wednesdays that she leaves by 4:00.
Mhm.
So for somebody to call in at 5:45 and say, I can't attend, but I want to Zoom in,
So let's kind of just leave it, if you cannot attend, then
What do we
I
have
know
there?
they should, if it's with, the announcement says we're putting them on and the applications, I think that gives the public sufficient time to determine whether, A, they can't make it here in public, in person,
Oh, wait a
and say, I want to be able to participate remotely. Please send me the link.
we did have the subdivision,
Yep.
Bartlett Pines people.
Yep.
There were 3 of them that could not be here because
That's
they
right.
live out of state.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
They didn't participate, but they Zoomed in and listened to the meeting.
right.
So would we be comfortable with dropping the latter portion of that sentence and just stating the public will be
Actually-
provided a meaningful opportunity to attend via remote methods? Take it away.
I'm
Mark.
confusing you, I think, because I don't know why the heck I even,
We shouldn't even mention Zoom. then.
no. I was reading our current one, okay? I just took another look. That's, that second green part where it says the public, that's already in there right now. I'm not saying can't change it. I'm just saying, I don't know why, well, maybe I wanted to call that to your attention or something, but for some reason, when I,
If you're gonna
Oh, I know
allow
what
public participation via the internet, I think we need to check with a couple of the other towns, like City of Portland. What do you do when you have 500 people that are on Zoom and they all want to talk? How do you deal with it?
Raise your hand. No, seriously, there is
I realize
Yes,
that, but
right.
I know they've had some meetings
Yeah.
where they had to say, we will let X number of people talk, and then it stops.
Yeah,
Right.
oh, yeah,
You know,
otherwise
I'm
it goes
just-
forever.
So-
I know, our population, I can see
Oh, I know.
500 people getting
Well-
on.
It would be historic.
Yeah.
moment.
And
Kind of
somebody
s-
also has to monitor the Zoom session.
Yes.
Right.
And if somebody raises their hand, they acknowledge that they can speak,
Right.
which,
Actually,
That's actually
the
taking,
chairman probably would
the
have,
planning
should have
board
a
chairman may
screen and
instruct the moderator
know when
Okay.
someone wants to
before
raise
use
their hand.
members of the
'cause they-
public who disrupt the
all right,
proceedings.
all right. Okay, look, I'm confusing you guys.
Okay.
It's my
That's
fault
all
for
right.
doing this. If
No.
if you could take your, I should not have put that second part as green because that's the way it is now.
Well,
The only thing I added was the applicant's part,
Right.
which is applicants appearing before the planning board may be allowed to participate via remote methods at the discretion of the chair or designee.
A on that one, but since we're here.
Yeah, I know, but, and this is what,
Again, allowing a remote attendance contingent upon one of us being sick or an applicant being remote doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
I think cutting off the second part of that sentence and just saying public will be provided
Oh,
a
I
meaningful opportunity to attend via remote methods, period. Which is what we're doing,
Right.
Yeah.
is sufficient.
Because the next sentence says, if public input is allowed or required. You know.
Oh, there you go.
okay, I'm sorry. Actually, that's what it says now. And I'm, see,
Unaffected means of communication. would be
I
allowed.
probably, what I did was I cleaned this up a little bit because what we had in the attachment 4 before, which is now attachment 5, we had members of the body, members of the body, members of the body. So I cleaned all that up, made it PB members.
Right.
And then I added in this really, what I really wanted to add in was that one section about applicants appearing before the planning board may be allowed to participate at the discretion of the chair, blah, blah, blah. The rest of it is really what we already have. But if you want to change it, I guess, tell me what you want me to put in and I'll change it. How's that?
Well, I'm suggesting deleting when any PB member or applicant participates via remote methods.
Yes,
Just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Extraneous.
I agree.
I agree with that,
It gets too convoluted.
Yeah.
right.
You know, if
Contingencies.
Rod says, we have 3 people that want to participate in this meeting, they can't be here, so we're going to allow them to attend this way.
Right, 'cause
It should be fine.
So you want to leave the part in there, which is in the current one.
Right.
That says the public will be provided a meaningful opportunity to attend by remote methods.
Period.
period.
Well, we're not
Scratch.
doing that now, are we? How are we doing that now?
If they notify,
Right now.
Primarily, you let them watch the,
Oh, attend,
Meeting.
okay, attend, all right, attend,
Okay.
attend is not participate, gotcha,
To
gotcha,
attend,
gotcha.
right.
All right. All right, I'm getting there, I'm getting there.
and the next sentence follows up
Yes.
with, if the public input is allowed or required, an abutting neighbor who has an issue with whatever is before the board.
Okay.
An effective means of communication between the planning board and the public will be provided.
And that needs to be pre-planned. And that's
And-
what we did with that applicant.
And
Yeah.
it could be as simple as a call, as we communicate
Okay,
with the
so-
fire chief of Waterboro.
Not to beat my head against the wall, but the only change that you want to make, as I hear it, is attachment 5. Take out the words in the second green part saying, when any planning board member or applicant participates by remote method. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And then, all right, well, I'll fix this up for, well, wait a minute.
Can I have,
Well-
I have an issue with this, I mean, something I want to point out on the second paragraph. The second to last sentence, it says, all PB meetings will be accessible by Zoom or other remote platform when possible. Do we even want to mention Zoom in here?
Well,
Yeah, that could change, yeah, the platform
well,
could change.
they use YouTube for the primary instead of Zoom
Right.
going for the remote
So-
participation.
By a remote platform, I don't think we should specify Zoom.
want to take Zoom out? I mean, that was in, that's just the standard wording
Right, because I think
from, no, it's not actually in the,
it's not, a planning board meeting is not accessible by Zoom
No.
unless, it's accessible by YouTube all the time.
yeah, it was in, I guess it was in our previous one because it was in the Board of Selectmen's.
Right.
Okay, so
I'm
All
sorry, the
meetings may-
select boards.
all planning board meetings will be accessible by
Remote platform,
by a remote platform, period.
that's what I would say, when possible.
By, okay, this is in
By
the second
remote
paragraph,
platform.
all PB meetings will be accessible by a remote platform
By remote platform. You don't even need the.
when possible, by a remote platform.
It's not now.
Yeah.
When possible.
We can go bargain
Yeah, it's just,
shopping for remote platforms.
All right,
Technical difficulties.
Are there any
beyond
other-
our
I think
control.
we need to take out the word all. Because right now, by this, we should have had offered Rob the option too.
he has the
Remote in.
option if he wants to.
Could have.
Planning boards may be accessible by Zoom or may be accessible by remote platform when possible. When a
Yes.
member is unable to attend a meeting in person, giving notification. Otherwise, we're setting up a remote communication line that 99% of the time is not going to be utilized.
I'm sorry, which paragraph are you on?
I'm on number 2, fourth line down, where it says all planning board meetings will be accessible by Zoom or other remote platforms when possible.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
I would suggest planning board meetings may be accessible by remote platform when possible after a member is unable to attend the meeting in person and has notified the planning board chair or presiding officer as far in advance as possible.
I think those two are separate ideas.
Yeah,
Yeah,
One, just confirming that we are providing a remote means for people to observe the proceedings. And the second is, as Rod did today, notify
Mhm.
the presiding
Mhm.
officer as early in advance as possible about non-attendance. That's separate altogether, I think.
Yeah, it is a
Yeah.
separate statement.
Yeah, so,
Yes.
You okay with that,
I'm
Kelly, or
okay
not?
with
But, okay, to break it down to the way you just presented it,
Mhm.
all planning board meetings will be accessible by Zoom. Now you're, or
that.
remote platform. Now you're saying to the general public out there, all these, your input is allowed at all these meetings.
No, meeting.
No,
accessible doesn't mean participate.
Right, it doesn't mean they participate.
Mhm.
Means they can access the meeting.
we covered that in the paragraph, the one that says, the public will be provided a meaningful opportunity to attend by remote methods, period.
Right.
So why are we stating it prior?
I don't know. Well, it's because the
Hmm.
select board policy and
Just adopted
the
that.
law there had that written in that way, that's why.
Mhm.
But it didn't
But
have
you
to.
see my point?
It is arguably redundant, but I would contend that, I would submit that it's actually supportive. That we're saying that it'll be streamed at a remote, through a remote system, and that the public will be able to attend through that system.
You okay on that or not?
I think that that line opens a possibility for someone in the public to say, well, I want to attend the meeting. I have something to say, I want to attend. Mistaken attending for participating in.
Well,
It's what the wording of the,
attend is not participate,
didn't I send you?
I know that, you know that.
right?
Didn't I send you the copy of the
Someone
state
makes a
law?
complaint about that. Yeah, there is a distinction between the two verbs.
They should teach that in school.
Yeah, what the heck are those teachers doing?
No idea.
Don't get us
For 38
started.
years, he was doing that. I think that, Kelly, I think we're okay on that.
Okay.
All right, so,
Jake,
I would suggest that instead of Don going once back to the, that, I think we all have the same modifications in front of us. I think it'd be,
we'll take a vote on it?
yeah,
Okay, let me just rephrase, so everyone thinks I'm not pulling a fast one. The only changes I have to this brilliant document that's green and yellow are on attachment 1.
Yep.
It says, and that's the first paragraph.
Right.
This meeting is being live streamed and recorded to YouTube. That's opening remarks.
Mhm.
On attachment 2,
same.
this meeting is being live streamed and recorded to YouTube.
And you were taking out executive session, I believe, from attachment two.
oh, that was
Yes.
the original green.
Okay.
This is-
Yeah. Yeah, I took that out too. And then on the attachment 3, there were, anyway, the only other change that we've come up with after significant discussion is under attachment 5.
Mhm.
Second paragraph, it'll read, all planning board meetings will be accessible by a remote platform when possible, period. And then down first, second, third, fourth, fifth paragraph, I think it says, it'll be, the public will be provided a meaningful opportunity to attend by remote methods, period. And then that's the ballgame.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the modified, the bylaws as modified.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? Nope. Call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, what I will do then is I will prepare a clean copy, which I actually have one, but I'm gonna touch it up a little bit. And leave it with Julie for either Cecile or Rod to sign.
Right.
I will also prepare as long as the planning board doesn't have a problem, a transmittal letter to the select board saying, here is the new
Amended bylaws.
bylaws, and if, unless you think it's just overkill, maybe you do, I would like to attach a copy of the bylaws that shows the modifications, as well as an approved signed copy. You don't want to do that? Okay,
That's straight up. That's my sense.
Yeah. If they want to, they can do a side-by-side review of what was there before.
Yeah, and then the other thing, I'll make a transmittal letter for Cecile or Rod to sign, and it'll say something like, here they are, blah, blah, blah. Please provide any comments in writing. And that way we'll get them back if we get them back.
That sounds good.
So,
That
okay,
sounds good.
good enough. Thank you for,
Okay.
I really appreciate you actually looking at this. All I'm trying to do is to codify what we're doing so that we try to be as consistent as possible, because it's very easy, without intending to do so, to get inconsistent. And when the zoning board of appeals, for example, if our mind is working, gets through that section about notifying the CEO and the ZBA and all that stuff 20 days ahead, I'm going to ask why. Because 20 days, see, that drives a lot of stuff. 20 days, it pushes you out. And I don't know why it couldn't be 10 days, for example, or something.
But we're working with the ordinances as,
As
they are
we
right
got,
now, so.
absolutely, got to follow them as written, and that's the whole objective of this, is not to create more issues.
I've seen mailed in Alfred take 3 weeks to get the lineman.
Oh, yeah.
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 Yeah, I know, and that's why we went to 20 days for the notifying of butters, which, because of the lawsuit
right,
too.
right.
So, okay, thank you for your help. I really do appreciate it. I want to get this
Thank you
thing
for
done
doing
with,
this.
if we can.
Joe and Don, you're up on the ordinance review. Are they seriously looking at the short-term rental?
Now, all I can say is I provided to Brenda for distribution models of a number of
Municipalities.
short-term, yep. I only viewed the first half of the previous meeting so far. I don't know if they took any action on, but let me just say that I think that it is a topic that is in front of them.
Yeah.
I think one thing that they may be doing maybe tomorrow is doing some prioritizing as to what is most pressing. And
Well,
maybe dividing into subcommittees to address those as.
Maybe they'll do that. They have some new members appointed, apparently.
That's right.
Yeah,
But what they started to do at the last meeting was to go through, they were going to go into shoreline zoning for some reason, and they got off of that, thank goodness. So they started with the zoning ordinance. They're starting to go through page one, just rip. We did this a few years ago, and I forget exactly when, but it's a thankless job, okay? A thankless job, but it's a logical way to approach it, because if you start piecemealing it, you end up with other issues, possibly.
Yeah, right.
This way you go right through it. For anything to get to this year's ballot is zero chance.
Yeah.
The reason I'm hot on the short-term rental is because the short-term rental, as the market is reflecting, we'd have to change almost every zoning, because short-term rentals are commercial properties. They're not considered income, they're considered income-producing properties, commercial properties, because it is not their principal residence. So if we look at certain zoning areas, do we allow commercial enterprise in those zoning areas, districts, that fall under the rental? How are they managed? How are they licensed? I saw a video of a short-term rental. This was posted on one of my appraiser sites. These people were suing Airbnb. They were suing the owners. They were suing. The place was a porterhouse that they walked into, and they're like, we just paid $2,500 to stay a weekend in this place, and this is a pigsty. Town has no recourse. They don't manage them. If you're in Orchard Beach, every rental property in Orchard Beach has got to be licensed and inspected, period.
Can I make a
If it's not-
suggestion?
Sure.
In the interest of moving things forward, but also my suggestion is that you find a good chunk of a short-term rental ordinance and send that to the, as a recommendation to the ordinance review committee.
Because I've sent Brenda half a dozen different, just here's something to think about,
Well,
here's something, and
I know, but they're starting at the beginning right now. They're gonna go through this.
I mean,
They're
I
gonna,
can go to multiple municipalities, go pop up that, set it aside and send it as a
what I'm getting,
PDF. to
what
them.
I'm trying to say is this, talking is talking, walking is walking, writing is writing. So if you want to get something done, and it doesn't always happen, submit it in writing, and maybe they'll consider it, but they're just getting cranking, and that's not the only issue. And I'm not saying that's not important, but I'm just saying
It's
they're
one of the
gonna,
most pressing ones that is gonna be facing this municipality.
It's just, Kelly, point by point with some examples as
Yeah.
well. And send it to, again, I'm pretty sure they have.
They were talking about getting their own email.
I think they've got that. I think that was-
yeah, anyway, but I'll be happy to
Or at least,
also take that and present it to them
There you
if you
go.
want me to.
That sounds good. Yeah, it's the liaison.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Move to adjourn.
All right, well, sorry. Just
Agenda for
Couple
next
quick
time.
ones. Quick ones, sorry. Notices of decision. There were still a couple of things to clean up on a couple that are pending. Is that so?
One has a question on the 2-page number.
Right.
There's two listed on different documents.
Mhm.
We gotta figure out which one's the right one.
Mhm.
Two of them, they have not paid their fee.
Oh,
Yeah. Now,
you can't issue
Out of
the,
curiosity, why don't they pay the fee when they file the
You're
application?
Yeah.
supposed, we shouldn't even approve it.
We
Yeah.
shouldn't even discuss it
That's
until
right.
it's paid,
I agree.
period.
They kind of fell through on it.
Okay.
Yeah,
It was just
somehow.
one of those, Brenda was working with one of them, and the other one, she's been so wishy-washy at times that we just didn't get,
Well,
we didn't follow through on it.
I think the notice of decision should be held in abeyance until such time that the payment
They
is
are.
made.
And they've
And,
both been told that.
okay, and secondarily, as Bill is suggesting, we shouldn't even see the application until the application fee is in.
Right.
Well,
Boom.
they're allowed one visit.
yeah,
Come in-
preliminary visit, preliminary visit.
Preliminary, right.
Yes,
But once
a
they-
preliminary visit, but yes,
Yeah, once it's
I agree.
completed.
they should pay
What do you
when
mean
they
they're
What's the
allowed a
application presented
preliminary
to us?
Oh,
visit?
they come in, we
It's in the,
do,
it's in the
um,
ordinance,
Yeah.
preliminary review of their
it's
application.
in the
and then
ordinance.
We, because they may not have everything that they need.
or they may not
Yeah.
follow. It may
Oh,
not
not-
fall
may
not be
under
needed,
that
right.
they need
Yeah.
Yeah.
the site plan review.
Yeah, we always do a
We had
preliminary.
one.
Yeah.
Recently.
But we could always give them the money.
It's
So
in the
that would be-
ordinance.
Yeah.
that would be-
Read the
yeah, I think
ordinance
It
it's-
on
says they don't have to pay till after the first.
No, I think if you read there, it talks about a preliminary meeting that that applicants can come to. It's to understand what the requirements. It's like
Right.
people come and say, okay, what do I have to do? You try to help them with the process and get them pointed in the right direction. But obviously, you don't want to issue the notice of decision until the money is in the checks in the bank or whatever.
Maybe we just have to be careful and just do that review and stop till it's settled.
So the site plan checklist, the first thing is
Mhm.
fee as established by the Board of Selectmen. So
Mhm.
on the site plan, so that they come, the first time they come in, we go through the site plan checklist. So that should be checked on. So,
Right.
yeah, it should
And if
be,
not, then it's incomplete.
right.
Then we don't move forward.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Right.
And also, well, on old businesses, MX 207, was there any update on that?
Haven't heard from,
Um,
I,
good, yeah, noted, another
They have a,
email,
they
call.
have a big,
Big event.
big event coming, I think it's 24th and 25th.
Okay.
See it on their Facebook.
And, it has been said that, that they're in process right now and otherwise occupied, understood. But I think there was the understanding too that we permitted use for the duration of their season.
Right.
But I don't think it's too much to ask for them to go through that checklist and respond.
and they were supposed to submit a copy of their camping permit.
Yes,
I
that's
don't
right.
recall
Curious to
ever
see what the
seeing
state approved.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, state approved camping.
Maybe,
Right.
if you don't mind, Julie, another follow-up on that. And I don't mean to
No, we need
turn
to follow.
morbid here, but I don't know if anyone else saw in the paper that there was an accident in a facility like this up in Nine
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
Oh, there was.
10-year-old
Yeah.
kid, was it, or
yeah,
something?
no, 19-year-old kid.
19, okay.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think it gives sort of more momentum for making sure that health and safety is sufficiently addressed at this facility. So, anything else, anybody?
Agenda for next time?
Well, that's pretty much, Julie sets that for
I'll
us.
tell you what to do.
Why not?
Obey.
My wife does, why shouldn't you?
You have
I
to
set
get,
That's a
the
good- yeah.
agenda, so I set the agenda.
All right,
okay.
Yep.
That's good.
so motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Joe. Good job.
And
Like herding cats.
there's a lot to cover. A lot to cover. Good night, though.
Oh, boy.